Okay, thank you. It's 10 after 7. We were in executive session in reference to a personnel matter. So we were running a little bit late. We've been here since 6 o'clock. Okay, so we're going to open up the meeting with a silent meditation or prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first is public comment on agenda items. We will have an opportunity to speak. There'll be public comment at the end in each agenda also. Okay, so seeing no one come forward. Okay, now the mayor now will read a proclamation proclaiming September as Child Cancer Awareness Month. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I don't know how many folks here have had that in their family and know how bad this really is, and especially in children. I've had that experience, and I know how important this is. So certainly with myself and council in all agreement with this, how important it is. And certainly as I read this, as you go into it, you know that they do need funding. So if there's someone out there that in their hearts can see their way to help fund this, it would be something that they need. And all of the cancers that we have are absolutely incredible with children. And if you visit children's hospitals sometimes and go down there, you'll really understand it. So having said that, a proclamation, Bensalem Township, Office of the Mayor, Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas childhood cancer is an urgent health crisis in our community, our Commonwealth, and our country. Whereas until new, better treatments and cures for cancer are found, it is important to raise awareness and increase funding. As I said, funding, that means they need donations, guys. Increase funding and improve hope for many victims and survivors of this insidious disease, and many organizations dedicated to this cause. And therefore, be it resolved that Mayor Joe DeGirolamo and members of the Township Council hereby declare September 2019 as going gold for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in Bensalem Township. So that's from myself and council. September is now declared in Bensalem. We're already at, what's the date of today? The 9th. The 9th?
It's September 9th.
We're already a week into it. So,
and it should be known that the proclamation was entered prior to the beginning of the month. So
yes,
it's been in place
sure
for the entirety of the month of September.
It's on our website, yep. Okay, now someone from Bensalem Strong wanted to make a public comment in reference to this.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much, Mayor and Council, for declaring September Gold Month for Childhood Cancer Awareness in Bensalem. We didn't give you guys much notice. In fact, we only mentioned something at the very last council meeting. But through your hard work and the hard work of Township Community Affairs Director, Mrs. McDonald, the Yost family, and resident Stacy Champion, we are off to a great start promoting awareness in our wonderful town. Stephanie Yost had the honor of speaking at a recent concert. Gold and the proclamation was added to the township website, and we are planning some Go Gold sporting events, including the September 20th football game at the high school. I am excited to see how together we can grow this initiative bigger and better each year in support of our young cancer warriors and their families dealing with this devastating diagnosis. In the past couple weeks, I've been able to connect with several other Bensalem families that I never knew were facing or have faced similar battles. It is a great comfort to know that we are not alone. This wonderful community is standing behind us and holding us up, and for that, I just really want to say thank you to all of you.
Okay, thanks for coming out. Okay, thank you. Okay, so, yeah, if you want a picture. Yeah, you want to get a picture? Yeah, we'll take a 5-minute recess and take a picture.
Of course, I'm a
Look at the picture.
politician.
Yeah.
My picture with it.
Okay, next on the agenda is approval of council minutes for the meeting dated August the 26th, okay? Is there any changes for August 26th? I didn't see any myself. Do you have anything, Mr. Gantz?
I have a question. I wasn't here, but on page 3, the first sentence, is that supposed to be presents or represents?
Page 3, what
I
paragraph?
think it should be
First
recent
sentence.
concerns. I think recent should be a C, recent concerns.
Oh, recent, oh, okay. I have that.
Oh, recent.
And on page 4, you have the highlight consideration of final amended land development as opposed to landed.
Okay, Deb, on page 3 at the top, it says, council member some spoke in regards to recent concerns. It's not resent. It's recent. And what was the other one, Ed?
The headline on page 4, agenda, number 6, consideration of final amendment land development plan. ED has to be,
Oh, yeah, it's land, at the top of page 4, it's land, not landed. Okay, there's an extra ED there, top of page 4.
that's it.
Okay?
I had in the public comment section, page 7 and 8, I think Miss Keith's name is misspelled a couple times as Keith.
How do you spell it?
Well, it's spelled right the first time.
Oh, okay,
Keith.
first, okay.
It just has to be corrected throughout that.
Okay, so correct the spelling on Miss Keith's name. Okay, anything else?
Oh, yeah, I see this. Let me see this.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes with the corrections?
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, all in favor? Aye. Any against? Okay, that's good.
I will abstain.
Okay, you'll abstain since you weren't here, so it's 4-0 to 1. Okay, consideration, number 4 on the agenda, consideration of public hearing of an ordinance amending Chapter 24 Personnel, Pension Plan Division 3 Employees of the Police Department. Do you have this, Mr. Pizzo, or?
No, I believe the Township Finance
Oh,
Manager,
okay.
Mr. Chakowski, is here
I'm
this
sorry, I
evening.
didn't see you there.
Yeah, I missed the little guy up there, right?
You're an imposing figure, but I didn't look up, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you,
Jankowski.
Councilman Knowles, members of the council. As I put in a memo earlier or late last week to all the members of council, we recently went through a state audit, and in 2009, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania had adopted Act 51, which provided all the members of the police pension with a killed in death benefit that is funded by the state. Right after the adoption, we did merge that change in the law within the collective bargaining agreement. However, we never updated the actual ordinance itself. During the most recent pension audit, the state recommended that we update the ordinance as well. So that's what this consolidation is doing.
Okay, is there any questions from council in reference to Mr. Jankowski, who's our finance guy?
This obviously then will be solvent and has continued to be for several years, is that correct, without any additional funds?
Correct, yeah. Well, this is just in reference to the kill and death benefit. Later on, I have a couple other ordinances or resolutions in regards to the pension itself, but yes.
Okay, so this is something we're changing, and it's something that has to be
This
done?
is just changing
Okay.
the way the law,
To update our,
I'll put
update
a
our
form of
ordinance.
a motion
Okay.
in.
So Mr. Kisselbeck has a
I'll
motion.
second.
Is there a second? Mr. Sloan, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Okay, so that's passed. Okay, number 5 on the agenda, consideration of public hearing of an ordinance vacating and abandoning a portion of Lakewood Avenue within Eddington Gardens, which is the other side of the golf course, I believe.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Knowles. As part of the packet the council received, you'll see about 2/3 of the way through the packet as part of the submission the township received from the petitioners, a plot plan showing the portion of Lakewood Avenue that's being requested to be vacated. You'll see that it is immediately adjacent to lands that are indicated now or late of Bensalem Township. Those lands are, in fact, the Bensalem Township Country Club. The township administration has reviewed the application for vacation, and it's the recommendation of the administration that the request be denied. The township believes that it's in the best interest of the township that access point remain. While it's not currently used by the township, one never knows what may come to pass in the future, and therefore it's prudent to keep that access point along that portion of the golf course for whatever future use the township may need it for.
Okay, so the administration's recommending that we not do this because we may need that property in the future for access to the golf course property, I assume?
That's correct.
Okay. Is there any questions from council?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. Why are the owners asking for this at this point? I would assume that this has been in Paper Street for a long time. Why is this coming to council at this point?
I don't know, Councilman, if there's been any individual contact with the petitioners. The process is that they submit an application to the township. They did that. You have a copy of the application in your packet. It sets forth all of the information that they've provided to us. So if you've read that information, you know as much as I do as to what their motivation is. I would suggest that perhaps just based on the fact that it is land between their respective properties, that if vacated would increase the size of their respective lots by roughly 2,634 square feet each. That's probably, as much as anything, a motivating factor.
Sure.
But again, to my knowledge, there's been no independent verbal contact with the petitioners.
Are the petitioners present tonight?
Is anyone here this evening on the ordinance to vacate Lakewood Avenue? It would seem not, sir.
Okay. Does the township have other access points in this vicinity to the golf course?
None that are currently in use. If the question is, would we have any other
Or
paper-
similar opportunities?
paper- Again, we could certainly look into that. The township is, however, up against an issue where, under the applicable statutes, the township has to act on this within a certain amount of time, where the request is therefore deemed to be granted. That's why it's on this evening's council agenda.
Understood.
So my suggestion would be that that if you're inclined to take the recommendation of the administration, that you deny it, and then if council believes that there's further investigation you'd like as to other potential paper streets that might abut the golf course, we could certainly look into that. But again, in the grand scheme of things, if the township, for whatever reason, needed to replicate this sometime in the future, having now give it up, we'd have to go out and condemn land from the property owners or purchase it from them at cost to the township, and not necessarily something I'd recommend, but again, it's only that, a recommendation.
Yeah, I think if to me, if the administration's saying that, we'd rather keep this for just future possible use adjacent to the golf course, I don't want to devalue potential golf course in the future access points, but that's,
Mr. Sloan, are you finished?
Yeah, I guess I'm not really sure how this is devaluing the golf course, but
No, well-
it's neither here nor there. I think I
you
would.
never know in the future. My point is, you never know in the future if you had different uses for the golf course, and then someone needed to get access to the golf course from a certain point, and it would be better to have access from that area.
Sure.
Then it would be worth less if you didn't have access than if you did have access.
The town, if I might interrupt, the township could always, again, if council would like us to explore it, could always approach these petitioners, having denied the petition, and if there is some particular use they'd like to make of the land, the township could certainly enter into some sort of an agreement with them that would not preclude us from making use of it in the future, but in the meantime, allow them to use it under certain prescribed rights and conditions, not the least of which are, if we say, we need it, we need it.
No, I think at this point, even that would be a little preemptive without hearing from the landowners themselves. That's all I have. Thank you.
What is the township's obligation for this piece of property? Are we going out and mowing the lawn and doing anything else with?
They're
as far as
probably
maintenance?
using it, I bet you.
Probably, right, yeah.
That would certainly be my thought, I don't know. Again, we've looked at it purely from, the petition came in, we looked at the map, we had a discussion, we determined that it didn't make sense as the landowner to give it away. But beyond that, anything that all of you collectively think we should be doing, we'll be happy to do further.
I would say that 90% of the time when these come before us, it's a no-brainer, it's land, it's not being used, it has no use for the township or anyone else. This has a potential use in the immediate future or in the far-fetched future, and I would be inclined to deny this application at this time coming before us.
Okay, so does someone want to make a motion in reference to this?
I'll make the motion then, that we deny this application.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yeah, I would think you should have.
Does anybody
I
want to
thought
make
you had
a?
asked for it with Joe Pizer asking if
Well,
anyone.
I was just asking for
Everybody
I agree.
the homeowner.
Okay, does anybody want to speak for or against this application? Okay, seeing no one come forward. Okay, so there's a motion, Mr. Kisselback and Mr. Polari second the motion to deny this, giving away this property. That's a street, paper street. All in favor of the denial, say aye.
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 Any against? Okay, it's unanimous. We're carrying that down. Okay, number 6, consideration of a resolution authorizing the application of municipal grant to the Redevelopment Authority of Bucks County for $700,000 for emergency equipment for 6 volunteer companies and the EMS. You have this, Mr.?
I do.
Jankowski?
As you can see on the ordinance, or on the agenda, there's 4 municipal grants we're going to submit to the RDA again this year. This being the one that we've done, I believe it was 2 years ago. It allows the volunteer fire companies and the EMS to submit for reimbursement for any type of debt or capital purchases or building renovations, whatever they deem necessary for the company. Any questions? I'll be glad to answer them.
You said 2 years ago. Didn't we apply for this last year? Or did we receive funds last
We
year?
received funds 2 years ago in 2018. When I say 2 years, I mean not this year, but we received funds in 2018. 2019, we did not get the funds.
Okay,
So it's just, that's what I was referenced to 2 years ago.
understood.
As far as our decision with how those funds are going to be dispersed or used, do we have any oversight into that?
Yeah, so they have to submit to the township what they're, looking to use the monies for before they actually spend the money. We would then deem whether it was qualified under the grant or not, or if it's just a simple, payments on their equipment or something like that. That's very simple. But if it's something, a new addition or any type of renovations that they would have to do, they would have to apply to the normal bidding practices and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you.
That would have to be done in advance.
Just a note, this, as far as the wording, if you notice down there at the now therefore it be resolved, it's mentioning the emergency radios.
Yep.
So, which I think is actually agenda number 7, so we just want to make sure that we make that correction there.
Yep, the resolution will need to be changed.
Emergency radios here, but it's not for, it's for the,
It's not for the purchase of required radios?
correct.
Now, I guess, are you answering questions now just on this first resolution?
I would just
Or
say
are
we
you-
should do this one first, and then I can go through.
And then-
every single
okay.
one, yeah. However you'd like to handle it, I mean.
Okay, well, let's do this one first and
Yeah.
get this done. Okay, so is there any other questions for Mr. Jankowski in reference to this resolution, so we can try to get the money for the volunteer firehouses and the EMS?
I'll make a motion, we approve as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any against? Okay. It's unanimous. Okay, It was Mr. Polari and then Mr. Dagmazian seconded. That was unanimous. Okay, number 7, consideration of resolution authorizing the application of municipal grant to the redevelopment authority of Bucks County for $388,571 for the new emergency radios.
This is an ongoing grant that we applied for numerous years now. It's paying, it's available for the township as well as the volunteer fire companies for the payment for the new radio system that was implemented many years ago. And many of the companies are still paying the annual installment on that. So should this get awarded, they would submit proof of payment, and we would in turn reimburse them.
Reimburse them for the radios. Okay, is there any questions about this, Jess? Did you have a question in particular about this?
Yeah, just similar. Have we received this before?
Yeah, this is, I believe we've received this one, I'm not sure how many years, but a number of years.
Okay, and so it's been
It's a
consistent?
normal one, yes.
Right, okay.
Possible that we could get it.
Yes.
Okay, is there any other questions in reference to this, or if anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve as presented.
Second?
Second? Okay, Mr. Polari, Mr. Sloan? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Okay, thank you. Number 8 on the agenda, consideration of a resolution of the intergovernmental agreement to participate in the grant application for Towns Against Graffiti.
Sure, this is an intergovernmental agreement between multiple municipalities within Bucks County for our Towns Against Graffiti program that is run. It's been funded for a number of years by the RDA, and the program's been able to continue and keep the county clean. Any questions? I'd be glad to
It's a
answer.
great program. It was started, I don't know how many years ago, by the mayor.
Yes.
And again, the cooperation throughout all the municipalities keeps all of us in our townships and our boroughs free from graffiti. And
Absolutely.
when we tell people, and I tell people, big businesses and such, that you can have this done for nothing, if someone scribbles on your storefront or whatever the case may be, they're amazed that it wouldn't cost them anything. But then, of course, we ask them to join the organization afterwards. All in all, it's a great thing to belong to if you are a business person. More importantly, it's been very successful, I guess, from the premise of the broken window syndrome, where once you have one, it leads to another and a third one and a fourth one. So whoever's in charge of it, and Bensalem, that would be the leader of this organization, I say we're doing a great job on that.
Agreed.
So I'll put that in a form of a motion.
Okay, hold on a second.
Go ahead.
Okay, so, go ahead.
Just to clarify, the grant's for $165,000?
Correct.
Okay. And then the cost approximately $240. I know that may fluctuate a little
Yep.
bit. Can you just explain where that difference is going to come from?
Sure. So as a member, each municipality has to pay an annual dues membership. So there's money that's collected for that, as well as there are fundraising programs that we've done throughout the years, should we need to build additional funds. As of right now, this program itself is working off of fund balance as well. So, we're not hitting the 240 mark, but the 165 is certainly covering the cost currently.
Is the 165 a cap on what we can apply for?
I'm not quite sure where
Can we apply for what we're budgeting?
We could apply for anything. I think it's been determined that the 165 and the membership dues is enough to sustain the program going forward.
Okay.
And that's been something of an understanding with the redevelopment authority as well, that
This is what they're willing to do.
165 is what
Trying to
they have been
get an understanding.
consistently comfortable funding, so you
Yep.
don't want to
Rock
look a
the
gift
boat.
horse in the mouth.
You may
Understood.
have somebody as sharp as on the redevelopment authority as you, Jesse, and check those figures, That's why we keep it at 165.
Okay, does, any other questions? Does someone? Mr.
I'll
Kisselback?
second the motion.
Okay, Mr. Kisselback made the motion, and Mr. Dagmazian seconded the motion. All in favor of the
Aye.
resolution? Aye. Any against? Any abstains? Okay, so that's good. Okay, number 9, consideration of resolution authorizing the application of municipal grant to the redevelopment authority for the county of Bucks at $60,000 for the Bucks County YWCA.
Yeah,
Explain this one.
As we have in the past, community organizations can request the township to submit a grant application on their behalf for funding for any particular programs. In the past, Living Grant has received a grant through the RDA. that's the most recent one I can think of. But the YWCA is looking to use this program to help support programs to service low-income children and families within the country Common Family Center located on
County.
Richelieu Road. Yeah, I believe it's supposed to be the county.
So this is a direct link between the YWCA and Country Commons?
I'm not quite sure. I just know that it's with, I would assume it seems like it's on their property, so I would say
Yeah, the
yes.
family, it says Family Center at Richelieu Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not sure if the Y runs that location then, or?
The Y does.
Oh, it
The
does.
representative,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm sorry. The representative from the YWCA did contact us, and it is the program, they run the program.
They run the
there.
program.
And I
Okay.
believe it reaches outside of that
Yes, it's a,
development, it goes throughout Bensalem.
yep.
Okay.
But it's for low-income children in our area, so.
And it's other communities as well within
Yeah.
the county.
Just so I understand the structure of this, so are we doing the grant writing for them then?
I'm sorry?
Are we doing we're actually doing the grant writing for them?
We're
on this?
submitting on their behalf, yeah, so we would be the grantee, and they would be the sub-grantee.
Got it. Is
basically.
there any cost to us on that?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Well, it's just for low-income
I
children.
understand that, yeah, but
Okay, so is there any other questions? Anybody want to make a motion?
Make the motion, we approve as presented.
I'll second.
Okay. We have Mr. Blair, Mr. Pakmazian. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Okay, good. Okay, number 10, consideration of resolution regarding the Bensalem Police Pension Fund to reduce or eliminate participant contributions below the mandated rate of 5% of compensation subject to certain conditions on an annual basis. Want to explain this one?
Sure. So every year, through contract negotiations, we have negotiated with the PBA, the Police Benevolent Association, that their their employee pension contributions are 3.5% of their salary, or their W-2 wages. According to Act 600, if you go below 5%, the board has to approve a resolution just adopting the fact that it's going below the 5%. Which is what this particular resolution is for.
Were there any officers who were not in favor of this?
No.
Okay.
How long has it been at 3.5%? I know it was last year when you came before us.
Yeah, so it was last year. The most recent contract that was adopted, which was 2008, it increased to 3.5%. It was at 2.5%.
Okay.
So
Since 2008?
yes.
What's going on?
I'm sorry, 18. If I said 2008, I'm wrong.
Oh,
2018.
I apologize.
Okay,
So it had been at 2.5?
It was at 2.5, yes.
now we're at 3.5.
And now we're at 3.5.
Okay, any other questions?
Does somebody, or the township or someone have to make up the other 1.5%?
No,
Does it
so
have to
what
be funded
happens?
by a minimum?
So what happens is, and that's going to be a second part to what I'm going to discuss in a minute, but every year there's a minimum municipal obligation the township has to pay into the pension funds. That number is calculated based on market fluctuations, employee contributions, and then obviously an actuarialist does the decision as to how much funding needs to be put into the fund and everything. So that's actually my second part. If you don't mind, I'll read this real quick, and then I can continue to answer any other questions if you don't mind. So this is in compliance with Act 205. There's really no action that needs to be done as far as this aspect. It just has to be read into the council minutes. The 2020 municipal obligation, financial requirements for the police, non-uniform and non-uniform defined contribution. Pension funds have been prepared. The police defined benefit pension, the municipal obligation for 2020 is $3,685,171. For the non-uniform defined benefit pension, it's $440,878. And for the defined contribution pension, which is our newest pension plan, the obligation is $155,000. Again, there's no action, it just needs to be read into the minutes in accordance with Act 205. Any other questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Well, so are those numbers based on the 3.5%?
For the police pension, the 3.5% is calculated into it, yes.
Okay.
But our pensions are funded properly now?
Our pensions are, yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
not in distress or anything like that.
And that's audited too, right, I would assume?
Yep, it's
Yeah.
audited both by the township auditors. We have an independent actuarialist who does the financial preparation for them, as well as the state auditor general's office comes through every 1 to 2 years, and they audit the pensions as well.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Does anybody want to make a resolution that we...
I'll make a
Make
motion
a
to
motion, I'm
approve.
sorry.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Sloan, Mr. Takmajian, first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Okay, so we're good.
Yeah,
5-0. Okay, number 11, consideration of a resolution authorizing the upgrading of existing traffic signal to add pedestrian signs and new driveway along eastbound Mechanicsville Road. Do you have this, Mr. Pizzo, or?
Sure. As council is aware, you previously approved the land development application for the Republic Bank at the corner of Mechanicsville and Street Road. That was conditioned upon PennDOT's ultimate approval of the driveways servicing that project. As we are nearing as we are going through that process, rather, as I believe you previously had presented to you, PennDOT had suggested that the driveway be moved farther south along the property, and I believe that's been accomplished. In order for the intersection to reflect the changes both in the driveway and to include the intelligent street light system that we have, the name of which I always forget, but that has that intersection tied into all of the other intersections so that it's reading traffic and making the appropriate changes based upon what it's detecting. It's necessary for the township traffic signal permit for that intersection to be upgraded to incorporate that change in that driveway and the incorporation of that technology in the traffic signals servicing that intersection. So as you see, this is the standard PennDOT form that all of you have seen now for a number of years. It's in a form acceptable for your consideration this evening. It's been prepared by the township traffic engineer and is being recommended to you by the township administration.
Mr. Pizzo, is the cost of this new signal going in, the pedestrian signal, is the township paying that, or is the developer of the bank paying that?
No, all of the PennDOT required improvements along their frontage are being paid for by the developer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion?
I make a motion we approve as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Polari, Mr. Takmajian. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Okay, good. Okay, number 12 on the agenda is consideration of a revised preliminary and final land development plan for Michael Spadotto Investments, 901 Tennis Avenue, Spaduto. Mr. Belfield, how are you?
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Tony Belfield, representing Michael Spadotto Investments LLC on this application. The application before you is for property at 901 Tennis Avenue for the construction of 2 buildings to be utilized for storage and warehouse space. I have with me tonight, representing the applicant, Mr. Michael Spadotto, and I also have with me tonight, representing the engineer, Dumac Engineering, Mr. John Richardson, to answer any questions that council may have on the application. Again, the application is for 2 buildings, approximately 11,000 square feet each. The purpose of the buildings is to service, in many ways, similar to the self-storage type warehouse buildings that you're typically familiar with. These warehouses are more to service small businesses, small commercial businesses. You know, in today's day and age, brick and mortar businesses, the old model of having a storefront and having a warehouse someplace with your products and things of that nature stored away isn't as much a significant requirement any longer. These businesses are looking for smaller storage space, more flexible storage space to operate out of. So in essence, this is really to try to serve a demand of local businesses, commercial businesses that are looking for these types of facilities, something a little bit larger than what the self-storage can provide them, but smaller than what you would anticipate looking at as traditional warehouse space. So that's really what this is designed to do. These aren't designed to be active businesses and the such. The plan, one of the original plans that were submitted called for individual bathrooms at each facility, and I believe some of the input back from council was that would promote these being, sometime in the future, converted to ongoing businesses. To address that issue, the revised plan just has a single bathroom that obviously the tenants would have access to and be able to utilize, but it's a separate standalone structure that's been built in. Each unit would not have their own bathroom facilities and that type of thing. Again, it's simple, garage door, space for storage materials, support local businesses. The applicant has already had multiple inquiries from local Bensalem businesses that would like to utilize this space if it would become available, and that is the overall intent. So that is the application before you tonight. It did go before zoning and was granted zoning relief for 30,000 square feet of space. That has been downsized to approximately 22,000 square feet of space, but does fall within the approved building area from the zoning and hearing board.
One of the other questions was the parking. Can you let me know about the parking situation, where that is now?
Right. The original application, I believe there was a proposal that the maximum number of units would be 12. Subdividing changes, something future, not, different from what is proposed. 12 would be the maximum units, and they provided 12 spaces for that. After additional consideration from council, they are now providing 44 spaces. That is based upon the 12 spaces maximum potentially that could be utilized and 2 employees per space. And then they went back and looked at a calculation based upon 500 square feet of space and came up with the 44. So they are attempting to meet the most stringent zoning application for parking at this facility, which would be 44.
Are these climate controlled?
That is an option that could be provided, I believe. Again, it's going to depend upon the individual tenants and things of that nature. There is no plan right now to provide that as a matter of course, just because if all they're doing is storing goods in there in an empty warehouse space, like a self-storage facility would be, that's what would be provided them.
Who's going to take care of the bathroom facilities, and how often is that going to be taken care of?
That would be up to the landlord, obviously, to take care of those facilities, and they'd have a routine maintenance contract for that, for servicing. The use would be restricted to the tenants. So just like any facility, a gas station, for instance, if people remember the old gas stations, all had restrooms and things of that nature. So that would be maintained, and access to that would be restricted to the tenants themselves.
Yeah, but no one would be on location of this place. I have to assume that no one is going to be on this location except for those who need it specifically when they're getting out their tools.
Correct.
Or their lawnmowers or whatever they're storing in there. In other words, no one's going to be attending this. If it were, for example, a car wash, you have someone in attendance.
Yeah, and again, access would be restricted. The door would be coded, so only someone with the code could enter it. And then there'd be a routine maintenance contract, just like mowing the lawn or doing anything else. A cleaning service would basically come in on a routine basis, mandated by usage. You got to keep the tenants happy, and you got to keep the facility clean, or you're not going to retain your tenants and maintain the facility. Now, it's a small facility, but still has to serve the needs of the
That could
tenants.
be supplied to the township, right? The agreement,
Certainly.
How is the zoning classification of R2 and this application comparable to your intentions?
Well, obviously, we've gone before zoning for the R2 use is not the use. It's going to be for a use suitable to the commercial. It's surrounded by apartments, and that's therefore the R2 designation, but immediately across Tennis Avenue is the commercial businesses. So this is consistent with adjacent business uses, but there are, again, on two sides is the apartments, one side is a single-family residence, which was the prior owner to the property.
But have you received a variance for this, or how are you
I
moving along?
I will have my
as an R2?
engineer come forward and discuss that aspect.
This plan and project
Can you
went
identify
before,
yourself, please? Or-
I'm sorry, John Richardson with Dumac Engineering.
Okay.
This plan did go before the zoning hearing board. We did receive a variance for the proposed use. When the plan went in front of the zoning hearing board, there was 3 separate buildings, and the square footage of the 3 was greater than what we're currently proposing. We did lose some square footage to the additional parking that proposed. But conceptually, it was, this plan is what went in front of the zoning hearing board.
And then prior to this, it was a functioning garden center. at one time,
Correct.
right?
Prior to that, it was
I mean, For a
greenhouses.
long time, right?
And I believe it was wholesale greenhouses.
80 or 100 years.
Do we have that in our plans, that was changed zoning? Oh, you received a variance?
We didn't change the zoning, we got a variance to allow the proposed use. It's located, I don't know, 1/3 over from the left-hand edge along the bottom. Variance was granted.
It's in C, Chapter 232 zoning of Ron
166.
Gantz's letter,
Ron Gans.
July 11th.
See?
C, Chapter zoning.
Thanks.
Variance was granted by the township zoning.
Zoning, okay, I got it. Thank you.
And there was conditions attached, there was,
Conditions?
Are the five-
conditions of the approval are listed right below that paragraph.
The largest vehicles shall not exceed 33,000 GVW. No tractor trailers shall be stored on the site or access of the property. Proposed parking shall be subject to township approval. No outdoor storage and landscaping and fencing shall be installed as proposed. Okay.
Yeah, and the applicant is more than willing to comply with all of those conditions, obviously.
You're requesting a number of waivers related to stormwater management and land development.
Correct.
Can you provide some justification for each of these waivers, please? Walk
And
us through them.
we're going to go to, that's Section D and Section E
E of,
of Ron Gantz's letter, July. I'm assuming July 11th is your latest, because there's 2 or 3 letters from here, but July 11th is the latest date. So D, stormwater management ordinance, you have 4 waivers there.
Correct. The first one is the ordinance requires a minimum diameter of 18-inch pipe. Around the building, we're doing collecting of gutters and downspouts, and we're proposing 6-inch diameter pipe. I think that's pretty typical in developments. Normally, the downspout leaders aren't 18 inches in diameter.
Now, Ron, you don't
next-
see that being a problem?
No, the 18 inches is more for highway use.
Okay, all right.
The next one, 196-61B11, to allow less than 12 inches of freeboard within inlets. The site is relatively flat, and the inlets that we're proposing that on are back in the site. We believe that standard's more appropriate to highways, just like the previous waiver. We do not surcharge the inlets. The water's not going to be bubbling out of the inlets. We just are not providing the ordinance required 12
Okay.
inches. 196-61B12 to allow less than 24 inches of cover over pipes. Once again, we believe that's probably more applicable to highway standards. The cover that we're not providing, the locations where we're not providing 24 inches are within the site. They meet the manufacturer's recommendations for cover over the pipe from an engineering perspective.
And what is the minimum cover that you're proposing in the
I
plan?
believe we're about 18,
18.
except for the roof downspout leaders. They're even less, but that's typical in construction.
And what are they?
The 6-inch downspout leaders, they would have less than 18,
How much?
probably 12.
12.
196-61B13 do not require all crowns within the structure to match. If you have different sized pipes tying into one inlet, or you're providing a drop across an inlet, the crowns don't always match. That's a holdover from a long time ago when these calculations were done by hand. From an engineering perspective, in modern world, there's no reason for that. And that's pretty typical waiver that's requested.
Sorry to interrupt, but just on the Crown Point, if you notice on the next page under miscellaneous, under section F, there's a comment about the Crown's matching.
That was an error. That's somewhat different than the waiver. That's a will comply issue.
Okay, so you're going to be will comply on those 3 miscellaneous items then? Sorry, I'm jumping around.
Okay,
Correct.
Okay, all right.
okay, and then do you want to do land development since we have you up here?
Sure.
Yeah.
41D9 to allow an aerial photograph in lieu of the required existing features, all within 400 feet of the boundary. Is a typical waiver that's requested to help minimize the amount of surveying off-site on other people's property, and sometimes an aerial photograph provides that information, and sometimes in a better format. It's a fairly typical waiver that's been requested.
Okay.
201-104B to permit the existing cartway width at Tennis Avenue to remain, is that widening to 36 to 42 feet. The cartway along Tennis Avenue, it's fairly consistent. It's not a high-traffic road. We won't be adding a huge amount of traffic onto the road. So we're requesting not to have to widen it out to the township standards.
Is that going to be a problem for any potential tenants?
No, you mean Tennis Avenue itself or your?
Tennis
entrance?
Avenue itself.
Right.
You mean Tennis Avenue
No,
itself?
I know, but is that going to be a problem for any potential tenants that are, I mean, they're not going to be driving their sedans into this to store
Well, the
equipment.
road is 24 feet wide, give or take roughly. And there's the vehicles that will be accessing the site are not 18-wheeler type vehicles. So no, the 24 feet would not be an issue.
Is parking allowed on this stretch of Tennis Avenue?
I'm sorry.
Is parking, do you know? Street parking allowed
I don't believe so.
No.
I think so, okay.
Ron, are you okay with this?
201-106C8 to permit the planting of a partial buffer of evergreens and utilizing the existing landscaping where available, and planting street trees across the property frontage. So there are some trees that are along the periphery of the site. We would like to maintain those trees and only provide the buffer plantings where it's inadequate.
Okay, so you will fill in where the trees are
Oh, absolutely.
existing.
201-106A2A6 to permit grading within 3 feet of the property line along the southeast corner property, to permit grading to the existing stormwater head wall. There's an existing head wall and stormwater pipe at the southeast corner of the property. Over time, it appears to us that there's been some deposits in front of that pipe. We would like to clear that pipe out. 201-106A2A14 to permit the grass lawn area to have a minimum slope of 1% and the grass swales to have a minimum slope of 0.8%. In regard to the grass lawn areas, that's mostly between the buildings and behind the buildings. Once again, the site is relatively flat. Unfortunately, we don't have the grade to work at. And in regard to the grass swales, the 8% slope is a minimum slope to help enhance the benefits of the vegetated swale in regards to allowing the grass to absorb the moisture and to help pollutant removal.
It's pointed, what's the actual minimum?
0.8.
Required by code, sorry. 2%. So it would be down to less than half of that?
In the swales.
Ron, what do you think about that, especially as it relates to,
Part of the stormwater is to use the swales as a percolation of some of the runoff, so it kind of balances out. In this case, it's not a detriment to be settling in the invert because it's going to be percolating.
okay.
201-106C8B to permit 28 trees instead of the required 36 trees. Between the existing trees on the site and the trees that we're proposing, there's a fair number of trees out there. We're just trying not to plant more trees than are warranted on the site.
Mr. Vance, you all right with that?
Well, I can't see why they can't meet the ordinance requirement.
We're talking about 8 more trees.
Especially back along where the apartments are, I think trees might be helpful.
Okay, can you put the 8 trees along the back then?
We can.
Or get them in there?
We can.
Okay, so why don't you take that off then?
I would also note, and Ron, I'll again defer to you, but one of the conditions of the zoning hearing board approval was that the landscaping and fencing shall be installed as proposed. I'm assuming that the zoning hearing board was shown some sort of a landscaping plan at the time of the zoning hearing board meeting. I would think that the landscaping and fencing should, at a minimum, be what the zoning hearing board was shown. So on top of everything else, I would caution that that's a condition of the approval. We should make sure that that condition's being met. Hopefully 36 trees, as council is requiring, satisfy that, but at this point, this should be made as well.
Does anybody have any indication of whether they were worried about there being more or less trees in the landscaping plan? I mean, I would think that planting the additional 8 trees would be in line with the interests of the zoning
I would
hearing
think
board.
that generally the thought is to provide more buffering, not less. So, particularly where we're adjacent to residential properties.
We could ask Mr. Richardson, is this the landscaping plan that was presented to zoning?
Conceptually, yes. As I previously indicated, when we went to zoning, it was 3 separate buildings. The layout was slightly different. But unfortunately, I don't have that plan here with me tonight, but I believe the number of trees is equal to what was at the zoning hearing board. So based on the requiring at least as much, the 36 would seem to satisfy that.
Again, the zoning hearing board criteria should be the minimum. So,
The applicant is willing to agree to the minimum number of trees as required under the ordinance. We'll find a place to put the number of trees. And obviously, we will comply with the landscaping plan that was provided to zoning as a minimum requirement. That's fine with the applicant.
Next one would be 201, 106C8A, to not require the landscaping plan to be signed and sealed by a registered landscape architect. This is a fairly standard request. The plan is not a park or anything of the such. It's back in the development's a warehouse. We believe our firm can handle the landscaping aspects of that.
Does your firm have a registered landscape architect?
We actually currently do.
Then can you provide any good reason why your firm, who's doing the engineering, can't sign and seal the landscaping plan?
The only reason would be when we submitted these plans, we did not. We've since hired them.
So I think we can cross that one off.
Mr. Gaines, if any of these come up and you have any issues with them, will you please respond so I don't have to keep asking?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next
So
one's
you will
20
comply.
So you will get them sealed?
Yeah, we'll seal them.
Okay, all right.
201, 110B, do not require a curb along Tennis Avenue. Tennis Avenue along our frontage and on the other side and in both directions has no curbing. So we,
You're going to have to pay in lieu of
For the
putting
curbs
them
and
in.
sidewalks.
fee in lieu.
The client will pay a fee in lieu for curbs and sidewalks.
The next one's the sidewalk, and kind of already hit that. 201, 112D, to allow the edge of the existing parking area to be closer than the minimum width of 7 feet to the outside wall of the nearest building. Once again, we actually have drive-in access to the buildings. It's kind of a warehouse-type use. It's not an office building or resident or retail use. It kind of goes hands in hand with that kind of use that we're proposing. And it also additionally helps to minimize impervious surface. 201, 112L, to allow all required parking areas and access driveways, to not require all access parking to be curbed in order to facilitate sheet flow of the stormwater off of the parking lots and not require piping and inlets, which has kind of been discouraged by the DEP. We're going to let the stormwater sheet flow off of the parking lot into a basin on the north side and into the swale on the south side. and the curbing would just restrict that.
I would recommend curbing at the entrance, the radii and the entrance into the parking lot.
We can do that, that's not a problem, at the entrance.
Ron, can we just go back to the stormwater management?
Did we get to you?
There was in the EA minutes, there was some mention about the impervious space and I guess the increase of the impervious space. What concern, or do you have any concerns with that? And on that note, if there is an increase in the impervious space, do you still have concerns with the grading and that water flow into the basin or invert that you spoke of?
Well, I believe the impervious surface is actually less than when they had the greenhouses there.
Okay.
So that wasn't a concern.
Okay.
And it appears that they have the proper drainage provided for that plane.
And then Ron, on page, under F, stormwater management, it looks like the post-development flows are generally lower than they were pre-development flow.
Yes.
How's that determined?
Well, there's computations because they have less impervious coverage and they also have controls.
So you think the water flow is going to be better after?
It should be, yes.
A little bit, not much. Even though you're less impervious surface, does it meet our zoning requirement?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
For R2, they got a use
Right.
variance, not a variance for the impervious surface.
So the impervious surface is an existing nonconformity. We are reducing that existing nonconformity.
No, you're redeveloping the site. It's not an existing nonconformity if you're redeveloping the site.
The zoning hearing board considered it was.
Mr. Pizzo?
It's a factual question that I'm assuming the zoning officer and the zoning hearing board have already tackled. It's not apparent to me in the packet in front of us where the question was raised or how either the zoning officer or the zoning hearing board came down on the question. We don't have a copy of the zoning hearing board decision here, so I don't know if the zoning hearing board believed it to be a pre-existing non-conforming condition based on an opinion that was given to them by the zoning officer. I just simply don't have that information here, so I would be doing everyone a disservice to sit here and offer my opinion with fewer facts than the zoning board and the zoning officer had.
I guess my question
Can
was,
you, I mean, I can do it from my phone right here. I can pull up the minutes from that meeting. Can you do that from your computer and kind of take a look and give us
Sure.
your opinion,
I'll see
please?
what I can find.
and
Thank
so
you.
my question was, even if it was non-conforming, should you not require a variance from the zoning board for if you have exceeded what's in the zoning ordinance itself?
Heretofore, it's been interpreted that it's an existing nonconformity, and we're reducing that existing nonconformity. So heretofore, we've not been asked or requested to get a variance for that.
But the nonconformity would have been for the other use. Now you have a different use at this time.
The other use, the previous use was different, but the amount of impervious surface on the site was greater than what we're proposing.
I heard you say that several times.
I guess the only answer I would have is that the township zoning officer and the zoning hearing board interpreted as it was an existing nonconformity that did not require a variance.
Well, considering that the only thing that was applied for from zoning, just from my review, and I'll let Mr. Pizzo weigh in when he's done reviewing the minutes, the request was for a use variance for 3 garages, warehouses. You're presenting a plan with less buildings, 2 buildings, approximately same square footage total. But so fine, the use I can buy, the impervious surface, that was not part of the application as I read it.
While he's looking, I have another question. Are you willing to comply? There were several recommendations by the Bensalem Township Fire Rescue Department.
I don't believe I received a letter from the fire marshal. I have the township traffic planning and the most recent township engineers review letter.
Hey, can you read what those are?
It's March 12, 2019.
Yeah. Provide a utility plan specifying the locations of all new and existing fire hydrants and fire service water mains. A fire hydrant shall be located in an approved location within 300 feet of all sides of structures. A fire hydrant shall be located at an approved location within 100 feet of the fire department's sprinkler connection. Provide a site plan illustrating the locations of the proposed fire lanes in accordance with township ordinance and the fire code.
Just off the cuff, it sounds like those things will complies.
That has to be a yes
It
or
has to
a
be
no.
yes.
I would say yes.
Yes.
Well, in answer to the question, the impervious surface ratio is 45% in the R2 district, and the previous existing was 49.79, and the proposed is 49.77. So it's, for all intents and purposes, it's the same before and after, and it exceeds the R2 district.
Right, so it would need a variance, is what I'm thinking. That's what I say.
Or you can revise the plan to meet the impervious surface requirement.
Right. Can't be that hard to do,
Yeah,
4%.
we'll discuss it. We'll do one of the two paths.
Yeah. There was a letter in here from Traffic Planning and Design. Can you walk through that and walk through those comments as well, please?
Sure. The most recent one I have from Traffic Planning Design is April 10th.
what I have.
It's not based on the current plan, it's based on the previous plan. But if I just walk through it, the proposed driveway should align with Highland Avenue. That has been done.
Okay.
That's how it's shown on the current plan. Number two, the proposed site distance encroaches on the adjacent property. A site distance easement should be attained. That comment is kind of irrelevant based on the movement of the driveway from comment one. A driveway centerline drainage spread calculation shall be provided. These should be prepared using PennDOT standards. Once we have the final arrangement of the lot set, which sounds like it might be changing a little bit, we'll provide that set, so we'll comply.
Okay.
Number four, a driveway profile should be provided. It depicts the driveway centerline and indicates roadway centerline, edge of existing road, edge of proposed widening, interior slope, existing and proposed elevations, roadway cross slopes, and existing and proposed utilities. Once again, that's the same thing. Once we have it finalized, we will provide that set, so we'll comply. The following general notes shall be indicated on the plan. They has to do with PennDOT. Those have been added to the plan. Number six, include appropriate PennDOT padded figures for construction within township right-of-way. Those have been added to the plan. If the entrance will be gated, the gate should be offset from the roadway so a vehicle with a small trailer, boat, car, U-Haul can pull off the road without encroaching on Tennis Avenue. The gate has been moved as requested.
Moved or removed?
Has been moved as
Moved,
requested.
okay.
Additional pavement marking should be installed adjacent to the building to ensure traffic is guided away from the building so doors can be opened into an area that is not a drive aisle. Those additional striping, gore striping has been provided. Truck templates should be revised so the wheels or turn wheels from stop is on at appropriate times during the run and not the entire run. The truck turning templates have been revised as requested. A lighting schedule should be provided showing all necessary calculations. We'll provide that once the layout of the site is finalized. And number 11, township reserves the right to conduct a post-installation nighttime verification. Compliance with township lighting standards to the inspection reveals a non-conformance to the township standards. The township shall direct corrective action, which shall be executed by the property owner at no expense to the township. That is a condition, and we understand that, and we're okay with that.
Minimum amount of lighting in there as possible.
I mean, I think the biggest problem right now is the impervious surface issue. And I'm not sure that we can, if the plan is to revise this land development plan, then it's not a final land development plan, and we would probably need to see that final to show that it meets the impervious surface prior to casting our votes.
You have,
Unless, does anybody, correct me if I'm wrong on that, please.
you're saying you would do either one, you would lower the impervious surface amount?
Well, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, I guess the first step would be we'll have to get a determination from the zoning officer, whether it's an existing nonconformity or not. If the zoning officer makes the determination that it is not an existing nonconformity, we would comply with either reducing it or getting the variance.
I think we could vote on that contingent upon them going either before the zoning and adhering to whatever the recommendation of the zoning is, meaning receiving a variance or changing the plan to comply with the 4% on the impervious surface. I think that could be part of the contingency of approving the plan.
But in which case, that would be a different plan than we are seeing and voting on tonight,
Yeah, but,
right? I guess I'm curious what changes would be made.
but what we would do, my understanding is we need to reduce the impervious surface by about 4%, which is not a significant amount.
No.
You know, we would take away impervious surface from the plan in an area that would not affect any of the other ordinances, obviously, as far as traffic flow and parking requirements and things of that nature. You know, we've over-designed this to the extent that I think we can scrape off that 4% without materially affecting the plan in any way. And what I would respectfully request is a conditional approval based upon us providing the township engineer with a plan that complies with that, that reduces by at least 4% the impervious surface, making it conforming, and we move forward.
If I may, there's 2 strips on the inside of each building. If we remove that from the impervious surface and grass that, it would, just rough calcs, that looks like that would bring us below the 45%.
45%, okay.
Okay, another question, I don't know if you made a mistake here, but on his suggestion, it says proposed driveway should align with Highland Avenue. You said it doesn't on my plan. So I'm not saying it should, but that was a suggestion, but Highland Avenue seems to be down lower.
Oh, I'm sorry, I guess I misspoke. Originally, we had it down by Highland, but it was offset just slightly, so it fit on the property better. And because it was so close to Highland, but it wasn't quite aligned, the traffic engineer wanted it aligned with Highland perfectly. I'm sorry, I misspoke. We moved it completely away from Highland to, almost to the middle of the
So he was
site.
saying it's too close to Highland without being aligned.
Right.
But now it's up in the middle of the development, so it doesn't affect Highland Avenue.
Correct.
And so there's no issue now with the proposed site distance line?
No, the site distance, because the driveway was so close down to the property,
Right.
the residential out parcel, if you will, the site line cut across that property.
Okay.
Yeah,
It no
I don't
longer
know
does
that
that.
I would want it
That's
along,
fine.
Because then people would cut down Highland Avenue.
So just to confirm, you removed that gate that's there?
If they moved it?
Moved
We
it.
didn't remove it, we moved it. Before, we had it back pretty close to the road. We brought it back, so it allowed, as the traffic plan design for present, it allowed space for a car to pull off the highway before they access the gate, so that way it didn't impact the town center. So we pushed the gate back, then back into the site further.
Will they have access to that 24/7?
The tenants would have a key,
So, yes?
yes.
Okay.
So you could have a trailer following a truck or a car that's making a turn in there that's sticking out on the street? Am I correct? If you have a gate there, as opposed to going right through?
It's about 50 feet from the gate to the road. I mean, if you had a truck and a trailer and another truck, you probably would have a little bit, but.
That's 50 feet right there, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
But, a truck and a trailer, not a tractor trailer, but a
That's
truck
fine.
and a little trailer, that'd be fine.
You're not allowed to have tractor trailers.
Right.
All right.
Did you meet with the resident on the left-hand side there in determining the landscaping and buffering of that property?
I myself did not, however,
You can speak.
he's
then.
actually in the
that-
audience.
When we have the comment on it, that's fine. And then, what else is needed to, structures that are on that property at this point, as far as raising any additional structures? Do you have measures in place to mitigate construction material or dirt or anything to that nature?
So there's some remnants of the greenhouses on site, and there's some broken up asphalt and concrete and everything. All that would be removed in accordance with all state, county requirements with erosion control.
Okay, any other questions from council?
I guess I'd like a commitment from the owner that you're going to meet the impervious surface requirements of R2 rather than try to get a waiver from zoning.
Yeah, he thinks,
The applicant will commit to that.
Okay,
okay, because
thank you.
You're
To the
saying the
satisfaction
proposed-
of the township engineer, of course.
he's got 17.6 paved area behind the building, so he's saying he removes that.
Yeah,
You could make it stone or something, right, or walkway.
and grass, I think is what they said.
Yeah,
Grass strip.
I mean, if someone has to walk along there, that's what I'm saying, they must have made it paved for a reason. They could make it some kind of,
They're going to do a subject to the township engineer, so.
Yeah.
it's impervious,
Yeah, exactly, I agree.
pervious material that you can still walk on.
To me.
Okay, is there any other questions from council? If not, we can open up to the public, I guess. since you-
I just had a question for Ron. I just wanted to confirm what's being required in the way of curb and sidewalk along Tennis Ave. I got a little lost.
They've requested waiver from that for a fee in lieu of, but I'm requiring radius curbing and entrance curbing to be provided at the driveway.
At the entrance.
Radius and entrance curbing into the gate from Tennis Avenue.
So radius and entrance curbing at the driveway, the remainder of the frontage would be a fee in lieu of?
Yes.
And how about sidewalks?
Same with the sidewalks as far as fee in lieu of.
Fee in lieu of for the entirety of the frontage?
Right.
Thank you. I don't know if it changes the discussion because the horse seems to have left the barn and you've taken care of everything else, but it would seem that in front of the zoning hearing board, the applicant proceeded as if no dimensional variances were required for the plan. So that was the posture that was taken before the zoning hearing board. So nonetheless, the applicant has agreed to remove or reduce the impervious surface nonetheless, so that's where we are.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody from the audience who would like to come forward and speak for or against the project?
I'm Michael Murphy. I live at 911 Tennis Avenue, which is on the plan, the lot right next to, on the left there. And I've been informed by all along what they were planning to do as far as putting up trees and stuff for me, and I'm satisfied with what they've come up with.
Okay, so they've talked with you and tried to work with you?
Yes. Matter of fact, that they moved the driveway because the driveway originally was going to be trouble for us because where it came in across from Highland, it would have been people coming in, shining lights in our house and all, so that,
Okay, good.
so they moved it down.
And maybe we'll put a couple of those extra trees behind your house.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else that would like to come forward? For or against the permit? Okay. Any other questions from council? Anybody want to make a motion with the conditions that we set, and then Mr. Pivo can pay attention, make sure that they're doing this correct?
I'll put a motion on the floor. First of all, Michael spelled M-I-C-H-A-E-L, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, so we'll make a change on the beginning front page there, Michael Sperduto. But I would ask that the council would pass a preliminary and final land development process for the applicant of Michael Sperduto Investments LLC, located at 901 Tennis Avenue, the tax map parcel is 02-029-300-301. Now, the applicant will, I'm going to go to the T&M memorandum from Ronald Gans, dated July 11th, 2019. Happens to be my anniversary. And if we go to discussion B and C, the applicant will comply with everything that's in there. You can see exactly 1 through 5. I'm not going to reword them or read them a second time, but the applicant will comply with that. Section D, the applicant will comply with the following waivers. We're going to ask for the waivers of section, well, I'm going to go through all of the...
We're granting the waivers.
We're
gonna
granting the
grant
waiver, section D.
of section D in its totality. And as long as it's approved by the township engineer regarding the sizes of the pipes and the freeboard and the coverall pipes and such, must be approved by the township engineer regarding the waivers that we're granting them. Got that, Ron?
I think there's a few of the waivers in section E that you...
We didn't get there yet.
We didn't get the...
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were covering them.
Just
Okay,
D
thank
so
you.
far.
Okay.
D.
And then going to section E, chapter 201, land development, I would ask that that we would grant the 201-41D9, 201-104B, 201-106C8, 201-106A to A6, as well as 102-106A, 2A, 14. The applicant will comply with the next two, 201-106C8B, which is complying with the 36 trees instead of what they're asking for that waiver. And the applicant will also comply with the 201-106C8A, which is going to be a registered landscape architect to sign the papers. The applicant will also, we would also grant the waiver from 201-110B as well as 201-111A, and the applicant will be making a payment in lieu of. That being said, the entrance and the radius of the driveway will have curbs. The applicant will also meet the impervious surface of the R2 zoning.
There's 2 more waivers at the bottom of that section.
Okay, and then you have the, thanks, 201-112D and 201-112I. And that's, the applicant will grant those waivers for those. Okay? Moving on to the stormwater management, the applicant will comply with stormwater management F. Also, well as a miscellaneous, will comply with 1, 2, and 3. The applicant will also comply with the, excuse me, if I get there. Right to the end. We have the Bensalem Fire and Rescue Department, dated of March 12th, 2019, from Mr. Sponheimer, Robert Sponheimer. That date also comply with the traffic safety review from our township traffic safety evaluation, as well as, where do we go here? The traffic planning and design, the letter dated April 10th, 2019. The applicant will comply with that letter in its totality.
Except for number 1, the proposed driveway will not align with Highland Avenue.
What do you have there, Joe?
Number 1 in the traffic plan, the proposed highway will not align with
Should not
Highland
align with
Avenue.
the Highway Avenue?
Highland Avenue will be in the center, which the neighbors wanted and
Okay, so that's been changed according to the
plan.
presentation tonight, and that's what I have. What else do I need to put in there, Joe? Mr. Pizzo?
I believe, but again, I'll kick it over to Mr. Gans, that in the TPD letter, with the moving of the entranceway, item 1, of course, as we just discussed, would become not applicable. I believe item 2 would also become not applicable because the driveway has now been moved a sufficient distance from the neighboring property owner that a site distance easement wouldn't be required, but I'll defer to Mr. Gans to confirm or...
Is that correct?
Tell me I'm wrong.
Okay, so your motion would include number 2, too, in traffic planning.
So for the TPD letter, we'll comply with items 3 through 11.
3 through,
3, 4, A through G.
3 through 11.
3 through 11.
3 through 11.
Thanks, sir.
Sure.
Mr. Gusselbeck, the will satisfy the 45% impervious surface. Can we add to the satisfaction of the township engineer?
That was in the motion, yes.
Yep.
And then the last item I would mention would be, since this is also a consolidation of several existing lots, that a deed for the newly created single lot should be submitted for review and approval by the township engineer and the township solicitor, and that it should be recorded contemporaneously with the recording of the record plan.
I will add that. I did not know that, but I will add that to the, Ron?
Yeah, I have one more.
One more.
Requested that they provide the landscape plan that they present as a hearing.
Right.
Okay,
So we want to see that.
so the landscape plan that you had, Tony, you had presented, you can also present it to a township engineer to meet his approval.
Agreed.
Okay?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a first and we have a second, Mr. Takmasian. Okay, all in favor?
Aye?
Aye. Any against? Okay, so good luck.
Thank you,
John. All right,
gentlemen.
Thanks for
Thank
working
you.
with everybody.
Yeah, when you hit it right on, even if it was a technicality. All right.
Okay, next on the agenda is a consideration of a minor subdivision for Norman Cook Jr., BCS Enterprises
You
Incorporated.
want to take this with you, gentlemen?
4809 Ridge Avenue.
Pretty convenient. No, he's got-
That's yours. He's got it. You want to click that so they can see it up there? There's a... There you go. Okay, Mr. Stewart, are you representing the
I am.
applicant?
Good evening. Christopher Stewart on behalf of Norman Cook, the owner of 4809 Ridge Avenue. I also have with me Mr. Richardson to answer any technical questions. We're here regarding a parcel that's over 105,000 square feet. And as it exists today, a zoning line runs through the property, which is designated on this map in front of me as the pink line. So as a result, some of the lot is zoned LI, some of the lot is zoned R1.
Okay.
While the application is called a minor subdivision, there is no development. It's simply resolving a split zoning issue by creating a lot line where the zoning line exists. So this will result in 2 lots, one zoned LI, one zoned R1.
That's the present zoning of each lot right now, right?
So
That's
there's one
current.
huge lot,
And there are 2 different zonings.
and there's 2 different zones.
Right, exactly right.
And
Okay.
we're going to have a lot line running where the zoning.
The same
line-
owner, right? The same owner. right?
Same owner.
Okay, good.
Off to the left, the larger lot is the LI lot. There is an existing stone driveway on that lot that's adjacent to the neighboring lot. This driveway does encroach a little bit onto that neighboring lot. My client will widen the driveway on the opposite side to remove the encroachment. The other lot is the R1 lot, and that has an existing dwelling with a deck. By inserting the lot line along the zoning line, that required a side yard setback variance was necessary because of how close the deck was to the new lot line. On May 22nd, 2019, the zoning hearing board granted that variance.
Okay.
So we have, then I'll refer to Mr. Gantz's letter of August 5th, 2019. There are a number of waivers.
Yeah, under chapter subdivision and land development, is that what you're going to do?
Yep.
Okay,
Subdivision Land Development, D.
okay.
And obviously, the theory behind all of this is there is no new development here. Everything's staying the same other than the lot line change. So with A, again, not requiring the plan to show all the existing sewer lines, et cetera.
Do you agree with that, Mr. Gantz, that he shouldn't be required to show the,
We agree.
okay, just a lot, okay.
B, not requiring recreational facilities or areas.
Would we normally require a recreation fee or anything like that on a subdivision like this?
No, when they came time to develop the lot, that would come into play. But since this is an LI lot, recreation fees don't apply.
Okay. All right, go ahead, sorry.
C, to not require the cartway width to be widened along Ridge Avenue or Oakford Avenue.
Okay, is that correct, Mr. Gaines?
Well, he's going to leave everything, requesting to leave everything as it is right now.
Okay, and what happens when you don't widen the cartway width? What does that effect have?
Well, it would have no effect on this development.
Okay,
But if you're putting in a new housing development, obviously you
want to widen, okay, but you're okay here. D?
To permit the existing driveway to remain in its current location.
Okay.
E, to not require curb along Ridge Avenue and Oakford Avenue. F, to not require sidewalk along Ridge Avenue and Oakford Avenue.
Okay, would they be required to pay in lieu of for curbs and sidewalks on this kind of,
I'm going to defer Mr. Klein. There's no development plan.
lot line change like the?
Yeah, why is this not a lot line change? Exactly, that's my question. What's that?
I think normally you don't.
Why, I'm saying, why is this not a lot line change as opposed to a subdivision?
It's a subdivision, not a lot.
Why is it not a lot line change?
Because we're creating two tax map
So like
parcels.
creating two
One to
from
two.
one.
Oh, it's not already two of them already? It's just
No,
one?
just one.
Just
It's
the
one
zoning
It's
line
tax
goes
parcel.
down.
And we have, it's not many properties that have two different zonings on the same lot. is
You'd
there?
be surprised how many in the
Okay.
township do. I mean, over the years, we've tried to address them wherever possible. A number of the properties along Bristol Pike and Street Road.
Oh, yeah,
Back in
yes.
the day were split
You're right,
zoned.
you're right, yeah.
And again, the township over the years has tried to address them where we can. In this instance, what I might suggest is as to all of the items other than perhaps item A, which if you're inclined to waive, but items B through G or B through F, you may want to discuss G. But in either case, just place a note on the plan saying that at this point in time, the plan's being approved, granting a waiver of all of these items. At whatever point in time, newly created lot number 2 should come in for land development approval or building permit approval. Items B through G would be revisited by the township at that time.
Okay.
Why not A?
I'll defer to Ron, but that.
I think we'd want a,
You
Yeah.
would want A?
Yes.
Okay. So,
If it were going through land development, I'm
Yeah,
saying.
okay, so we'll say A through G.
all of the requested waivers,
Or only subject to the subdivision, no future development.
if at any point in time they come in, the note would be for land development or building permits for the site. At that point in time, all of the waived items would be subject to review by the township and would be revisited by the township. Is that an acceptable condition?
It is.
Is there any planned future development of this site?
Not at this point.
Then why at this time come before council to do the subdivision?
Well, it would be step one if you want to do that, of course. the client has had discussions with other things with regard to the property, but as far as anything pending, not right now, but that, of course, could change.
But the purpose is to have a residential property with his house separate from the industrial, light industrial?
Correct.
And I'm
And that's-
guessing that gives the owner room to sell or develop the property
Exactly.
as he so wishes.
Yeah,
Yes.
the light industrial.
If we were to impose the fee in lieu of for the curbs and sidewalks, Ron, would that be for the entire frontage, or would it be for the new property, which is the residential part?
I would assume it would be the whole property. That's your ordinance doesn't differentiate.
See, I'm more in favor of imposing the lieu of at this time.
And not at the land development
Yeah.
phase.
That's how I would approach
Mr.
it.
Pizzo, is that something we can do, or? Yes, okay. Okay, so is it,
What's the current use of the site, the light industrial site?
So there
I know
is
there's a
currently
cell tower in the back.
there's a cell tower, and my client does have equipment located on the property.
Okay.
and will he be able to properly access the back lot where the equipment is and such without having the front lot?
Yes,
And that's
Yeah.
the stone drive that's off of
Yeah,
Rail
the-
Ave?
correct.
Okay.
So if we were to require him to pay for curbs and sidewalks in lieu of not placing them at this time, per the township engineer to determine what that would be, would you be in agreement with that?
Well, obviously, it's the council's decision, but I think from my client's perspective, because there's no new development here, I understand it's a subdivision because we're making two lots out of one, but it's really a lot line change, moving that lot line to be consistent with the zoning. So that's where I would think it's a bit of a hardship on my client to impose it now as opposed to if he does or if someone else comes in to develop the lots.
I mean, I think if we allow the waivers to go through just for the subdivision, but impose them again for land development, then we
Well-
would have to double dip and charge those fees again. at
I want to be
development.
consistent that we don't do it on other people.
Yeah, I'm afraid somehow it's going to get lost in the translation, to be honest. And what if your client were to sell the residential property? Would that individual who bought the property then be subject to curbs and sidewalks at that time?
Well, I believe the township can impose under the statute, it can impose on the property owner to install curbs and sidewalks at any
Right.
time
That's what I'd like to do now.
for the current, for the residential property.
Well, for both properties, exactly. In other words, that's been our traditional process as we've gone along with this. That's why I asked about the lot line change, and there was no lot line to be changed. So you're creating a whole new business, if you would, a whole new
Tax parcel.
tax parcel, as if you would, and it's a whole new endeavor.
Yeah, because and that's a good point by Mr. Kisbach, actually, because if you sold the residential lot, right, say just as a house sale, okay, they're not going to pay for curbs and sidewalks, they're just going to have to get a use and occupancy permit. No one's going to catch the fact that, and then later on, you could develop the back and then just be responsible for that portion, I would assume.
Okay, but obviously you have the existing dwelling there, and is that the policy of the council that?
Well,
if
when
you
they
have-
subdivide a
Well,
lot
the
off of
existing
it,
policy of the council, as you had just stated a moment ago,
if you had a property that was one and you were subdividing the lot off, okay, as a separate lot, are you creating a new tax parcel number on the back? Okay,
have to, yeah.
so then you're creating a new lot. So if I had a house and I wanted to cut my yard and put a house next to it, okay, and I had sufficient square footage to do it, say I had a 100 by 200 lot, and I had a subdivision, we would charge that person for curbs and sidewalks because he created two lots out of one. So you're doing the same thing. So I think it's fair that you pay curbs and sidewalks now that I think about it, because you're creating a new lot. Okay, so it's not just a line between, you're creating a new lot. So now you have two new lots. You have a house and then you have industrial. So I think you should pay in lieu of curbs and sidewalks. But, we'll see if they make it part of the emotion, and you're going to have to decide whether you're going to accept that or not. You know.
Can you just explain the change with the driveway?
Change with
You're
the
doing
driveway.
some minor change with the driveway. Can you just explain?
So the existing driveway that serves the commercial use is actually encroaching on the SEPTA property. The township engineer requested that we remove that encroachment and move the driveway fully onto our property.
Okay, so we'll have to see what, so there's nothing else, the miscellaneous, the existing prohibition.
All right, so
Okay,
number,
under miscellaneous on page, on the next page, under E,
will comply,
that's a will comply, number 1.
all three. Will
Okay,
comply.
all 3 will comply.
And then going back to subsection D, there is a number 2
Two
on
on
the
the
top
back,
of page 2.
Yes.
That's also a will comply.
That's a will comply too, on the next page. Okay, so is there any other questions from council? Is there anybody from the audience who would want to speak for or against this lot line change and establishing a new lot?
Subdivision, sir.
Subdivision, thank you. Seeing no one come forward, we'll close public comment. Okay, does anybody from council want to make a motion?
I'll put the motion on the table that we approve the subdivision with a couple of notations. A to G waivers are subject to the subdivision, however, not the future development, and to be revisited on any plan development. I am going to require the fee in lieu of for the curbs and sidewalks.
At this time, right?
Yes.
Okay.
E and F, that would be.
So
Yep, for E and F, yep. It's going to be a will comply under section D, number 2. And I think,
And that's
and it will comply on the miscellaneous E, numbers 1, 2, and 3.
and the E and F for the curbs and sidewalks will be determined by the township engineer, as determined by the township.
Yep.
You have to do 2 different ones. Up and doors now.
Okay, and then we'll comply. Okay. That's the motion. Are we missing anything, Mr. Pizzo? Do you think you want to add to that, or if something about recording the deed, did you want to add, or? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, so just so that I'm clear, Mr. Tukmajian, so you did grant the waiver of D1 for all of the sub-items except for curbs and sidewalks. Curbs and sidewalks, the fee in lieu of would be paid at this time.
We're granting the waiver.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the fee in lieu of curbs and sidewalks at this time. All of the other waivers would be revisited at the time of any future building permit application or land development application, correct?
That's correct.
And then all of the other items are will comply items, and again, as in the case of the prior application, but in this case, it's sort of the opposite. Since we're now creating 2 lots, deeds for the 2 newly created lots will be submitted to the township for review and approval by the township engineer and the township solicitor, and the new deeds will be recorded contemporaneously with the recording of the record plan in Doylestown.
Okay?
I'll
Yes.
second the motion.
Okay, we have a second on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay, so as long as you're willing to comply, you're okay. All
Thank
right,
you.
Congratulations, thank you. Okay. Number 14 on the agenda, consideration of a lot, this is actually a lot line change, Ron, is this one correct? Okay. We have examples of both tonight.
This is a lot line change.
Okay, great. Okay, so for the Bucks County Economic Development Corporation, 1360 to 1370 Adams Road. Do we have anybody representing, you're busy tonight, huh?
Oh, my goodness.
I am. I promise this is the last one, though.
This doesn't even qualify for a lot line change, it's so small. Gosh, first time I ever saw it here. First time I ever saw it here. I don't know, have you ever seen it?
No, I know. It works for doing this.
Hopefully, this will be the simplest of them all.
This is the one I meant to say, listen.
So this deals with 2 lots along Adams Road. There's a shared building, and the lot line was supposed to be along a party wall separating the 2 buildings. Unfortunately, the lot line is skewed relative to the party wall. My client is in the process of working with her title company. The title company found an older survey that showed this issue, and they requested that she fix the issue. The area in question that we're transferring from one lot to the other is 138 square feet. It's relatively minor. We plan on running the new lot line down the middle of the party wall. And in terms of building coverage and impervious surfaces, it actually reduces the lot with the higher ratios on it. There's no development of any kind proposed. The township engineer issued a review letter, and as far as I can tell, there are no comments or requested changes.
Okay, so the lot line before was on the other side of the party wall, is that what you're saying?
It starts off pretty close at the front, but as you work towards the rear of the lot, it skews.
Okay, existing line.
How old are these buildings? 84?
Guessing your client isn't willing to move the wall?
How long has this been?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Guessing your client's not willing to move the wall?
Yeah, yeah.
1884, is that 84 years?
We suggested that, but she said no.
Okay, so Mr. Gantz, are you in agreement that this is like a legitimate lot line change for this purpose? Okay.
Common sense move.
It's needed to do. You got to have it right. You have to have it correct. Okay. Okay, so is there any questions from any of the council in reference to what they're trying to do here? Okay, is there anybody from the audience who would like to speak for or against this lot line change? Actual lot line change? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we'll put motion, close the public comment.
I'll make the motion. We
Okay.
approve
I'll second.
the lot line change for tax parcel 02045-044 and 02-045-043.
Okay, Mr. Sloan made a second before the motion, but that's okay, we'll still give it to him. Okay, so, Mr. Takmajian and Mr. Sloan, a first and a second, all in favor? Aye. Any against? Any abstains? Nope. Okay.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you. Okay, we have number 15, request for waiver of curbs and sidewalks. And I believe you have an additional one too, Ron, that you wanted to add to the,
Yes, sir, I do. The additional waiver of curb and sidewalk is for 2318 Ogden Avenue. And Mr. Sloan, if you would just pass them down, there's a paperwork on one for each of you. This is for you. I might have to pull that up.
so do we need a motion to add this? Okay. Okay, does someone want to make a motion to add 2318 Ogden Avenue to, as number D for a waiver of curbs and sidewalks installation? Is there a second? Does anybody want a second adding 2318 Ogden?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Kisselback, all in favor? Aye. Any against? This is just adding it, okay? All right, so, okay, that's added, Ron, so we can go through these one at a time?
Okay, the first one, 15A, is for 1070 Totem Road.
Okay,
We're recommending a waiver and a fee in lieu of $4,613.80.
for curbs and sidewalks?
Yes.
In lieu of? Okay. Okay, is there any questions from council on this? All right. Is there-
What's the proposed project? Why is this coming before us? Some kind of development must be taking place on property, correct?
Quinn, do you have
On
any
Gibbs-
idea why they're asking for it?
Residential homes.
New? Oh, new homes.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a new residential home, there's no curbs and sidewalks existing on this Totem Road, so they're recommending curbs and sidewalks be waived, but they're paying in lieu of, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, is there any other questions? Does somebody want to make a motion that we approve this request?
I'll make the motion, we approve the request as submitted, waiving the curbs and sidewalks for a fee in lieu of $4,613.80.
Okay, for 1070 Totem Road, right?
Correct.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Kissback? Really, a lot of enthusiasm here at the end of the night, but, okay, all in favor?
Vote
Aye. Okay. All right, that's good. You have another one, Mr. Gantz?
Yes, this is for Trailer Avenue, no address yet, it's a new home, 02061-264 tax map parcel.
And this is a new residential home, I would assume?
Yes,
Okay.
and we are recommending a fee in lieu of in the amount of $2,210.
And that's just for the frontage on that?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from council? Anybody want to make a motion to approve the waive with the fee in lieu of 2210?
Nope.
Does anybody want? So moved. Okay, is there a second? Is there a second to Mr. Clary's?
I'll second it.
Second it, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Okay, so no wait, no, okay, everybody's good? Okay, so we're done? Okay. C is 2519 Unionville Road.
Yes, that is the Snyder subdivision. It's the remaining lot. There are no curbs and sidewalks on Humeville Road at this location. We're recommending a waiver with a fee in lieu of $3,740.
Ron, before we do this, I'd like to get an update on what's going on down there. There's no public comment on this part, but I am going to ask for an update as to where we are with the
There
property.
is curbs with the first new house, so we should really continue them now. There is curbing there now.
Mr. Gantz, if I remember correctly, last year, when the other two properties came up, we did a waiver for one of them, the one that was on the corner. We waived curbs and sidewalks, with the exception of the curb on the corner, I
On the
thought.
corner, then going down.
Then going down Woodbine
Right.
because there was
Along
curbs along
Humeville, I don't
Woodbine.
believe there was any.
There was none, I don't think there was any on you,
Yeah.
it was just on the corner going down.
From the corner going down.
Just starting at the radius and going
Yes.
down Woodbine.
I'd like an update on where we are with the
entire
issues,
situation
with
there.
The entire situation.
Quentin, you want to update us on that because you had to leave last time, we didn't get an update. Hope everything's okay with you. Just let us know in general how you're making out with the water situation down there and following up on the pipes and.
Okay, me and Russ Brenner, the engineer, have been down there with the residents. There's a proposed new pipe for, and I guess we can say it's a replacement of the existing. It's to bypass what's there, and I believe it's a 30-inch. 30-inch line that we're going to be tying into the existing line. So that's actually being designed right now. There's some other modifications with the boxes across the street, just to get more volume of that water. I've not yet heard back from Tri-State on anything. I'm not sure if you've heard anything, nothing from Tri-State
Regarding
on
the
what their
basin?
status is.
The basin on the Gulf.
Correct.
Right.
There, so as far as I know, there was a letter saying they've got their surveys are done, but that's about it. So we're still waiting on that.
Was the existing pipe collapsed? There was some miscommunication at the last
We haven't
meeting.
found any. One of the things we're going to try and get out is using the fire marshal's office to assist with that, just to flood that line. We've been out there during rains and haven't seen any backup, but we've not been walking through the entire backyards down to High Avenue, which we need to do.
Okay.
So we're going to try and get that done actually this week.
And was all the steps taken for the lot, the house that was built in that corner to keep that water on that lot?
Yes, so there's a underground recharge in. We're still waiting on the as-built plans to be submitted, but we did have inspectors on site for that, so that's all taken care of. The property has been graded and seeded, so we're still waiting for termination on that to kind of slow things down. We're thinking that there should be no more issues with that lot, but we're still, the vein grade is in on Byberry Road side of the golf course, so that's been taken care of last week or 2 weeks ago. With all that conjunction, we should be pretty much where we need to be.
Now, what about the back lot that is, you know, the rough part of this whole project that seems to be part of the parcel of the corner property? What's going on
So
with
as
that?
far as I know,
Since we didn't approve the lot line change,
Right.
it was withdrawn,
as far as I know, that's to be deeded over to the middle lot,
The middle lot?
just handed over.
handed over to that lot and consolidated. But no, one of the areas that we looked at in the woods, which is, I guess, I'm going to say it's the upper end of that lot you're referring to where the existing line is. One of the things that we're looking at doing on the replacement line that goes in is to drop a line or drop a box on that new line in that vicinity where the water is coming off of the corner lot back into the wooded area. And then do some minor grading work to collect that water into the system and go out. So then the runoff will be stopped before it actually gets further down toward Forest Avenue where the residents are
Right.
complaining about.
Okay.
We need to make sure that the runoff isn't going onto the property behind, because it's putting them in a position where they're flooding their yards are mud.
Right.
It can't be allowed to happen. Also, the one new house that's next to the existing house, they're putting a fence up there. We gotta make sure that the fence is being put in the right place.
Correct.
Where their survey's done, is it being done appropriately? Because the residents that have lived there for a long time are taking the brunt of everything that's going on, because the gentleman, Mr. Snyder, just hasn't been willing to, to take care of what needed to be taken care of in a timely fashion, so these people don't have to suffer what they're suffering at this point in time. So we need to stay on top of them and make sure this is done.
Right, so, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you, what are the next steps for Mr. Snyder? I mean, how is this whole deeding over of the back lot being handled in conjunction with apparently the proposed land development?
Well, basically, as far as I know, he bought all 4 lots, from what I understand.
Correct.
So we want a confirmation that which lot is that last, we'll say landlocked lot going to, which he informed us verbally, but we have not seen anything in writing that it was being deeded over to the
I mean, right
middle
now,
lot.
this council's understanding is that that's part of the corner property. That back lot, that
I'm not
land
sure,
lot.
I haven't received
No,
any
I
confirmation
don't think
on
that's the
that.
case. I think it's going to the
I
second
think
lot.
I was informed it was going to the
We
center
don't have
lot.
any documentation.
We don't have any documentation.
Originally,
That's what he
during the
said.
lot line change, it was going to be modified for
I mean,
that.
just on this map that's submitted with our information here, that back portion that keys out from that corner lot property.
Right.
So,
Well, it's, like I said, it is a separate lot right now, so we're just going by parcel numbers on those maps.
Okay.
So that's the only reason why that's the only lot that's highlighted on that.
okay.
We're gonna have to make sure the water runoff on that property isn't going anywhere else.
Yeah.
That has to
Right.
be controlled by that middle lot also, to make sure that the residents aren't
Well,
getting.
right, so
And-
as
and
far
how
as I
does-
know, okay.
Well, how does land development fit in? Because our understanding was the original intention of the lot line change, the proposed lot line change, was because that was the only way that the house could be built to the existing ordinance
Now,
requirements.
how was,
Unless he turned it sideways or
he
something.
did turn it sideways, the house is sideways now, and smaller, I think, from what the other houses are.
Okay.
Just to comply with the setbacks on that lot. So basically, the way the lot line came in for the lot line change it was doing for all 4 lots was to make 2 straight narrow
Straight back,
lots
yeah.
and give the corner lot more property. It would actually end up happening. It would be like a cleaner situation.
Sure.
All the lots except for the landlocked lot do comply with the residential district of R2.
Okay, and there, when you said across the street with the golf course, are we still studying, stopping the water from coming off the golf
Right,
course?
so they're looking into, I believe, a basin. We haven't heard when, I don't know when they're gonna exactly get their plans or designs back.
We were told a survey was being done or something?
Survey's been done, they've got that taken care of. I believe in the next few weeks, we should receive something from them.
Okay, now.
Can we ask for an update on that from them, of when they'll have, recommended?
I
And then
can
Ron-
check in with them tomorrow and give you an answer
Thank
for
you.
next meeting.
Even though
appreciate
there's
that.
curbs on the corner and curbs going down Woodbine Avenue, curbs across Unionville Road. You don't want a curb in front of Unionville Road if there's no other curbs going down Unionville Road. That would cause a water problem, wouldn't it?
On the golf course side?
No, in front of
Right,
this house.
there's, anything on Huonville Road, there's no, the only reason why we requested a radius to go in at the corner lot and the curb going down Woodbine because of the existing curbing on Woodbine. And just to have that stop on Woodbine Avenue is easier to widen, I believe it's like a 4-foot shoulder widening that actually happened for that radius, just to make it cleaner and easier for cars coming down and turning inside.
But on Unionville Road itself, there's no curbs.
There's no curbing down on
Sidewalks,
Unionville
okay.
in that area.
Before I wanted to hear the approval, I
Yeah,
wanted
sure,
an update
absolutely.
of what was going on there, because the residents on Woodbine and on Unionville have suffered a lot through this whole
Right.
thing, and it's not fair, it's not right, and it doesn't seem that Mr. Snyder really cared about it or not, and I don't like that. I don't think that's the way we treat our neighbors. It's not the way we treat our constituents, and I think he needs to know that.
Okay, I'll make sure he does.
In terms of the sidewalk and the curbs, as far as the waiver is concerned this evening, do you foresee any significant impact if we do require him to put that in there, especially for the fact that we're going to fix some of the water runoff coming off that golf course?
Well, if you go back to the first lot, which I believe is 2509, this one's 2519, the corner lot is 2529. If you required that curbing and sidewalk to go in, it's going to probably channel all that water southbound to, I guess, would be West Bensalem Avenue. So then you'd have to get, you'd have to curb I think there might be another 2 lots down there that are existing that you would have to keep the water off of their lots at that point as well.
It's going to cause more problems then.
Right. Right
He's
now,
gonna
the
pay
water's
in
just
lieu of,
sheet
so-
draining off of Woodbine.
He's going to pay in
or off
lieu
of
of, so if it ever comes to a point where we can do that.
You have
we'll do it.
curbs and sidewalks right down the street at Rosalie and Huonville. I mean, at some point, wouldn't you question the safety issue as far as people walking up and down Huonville Road?
Maybe there's no other ones. I mean,
There is, though. It's- I mean,
Further
literally, it's the
down,
next street down. There's the
no, it's
curbs
not.
and
Yeah, there's
sidewalks.
West
Rosalie,
Bensalem's
right.
the next street. It's pretty far, Rosalie, from there. It's it's an
Probably
eighth of a
is.
mile. I mean, it's not close.
Okay,
You'd have to walk before.
It's not something that's unprecedented that we don't
Okay,
consider
well-
putting curbs and sidewalks in.
But you're not going to have them in between.
You're not going to have them in between
So
at this
it's not
point. So if he's
included.
installed his, you have the fee in lieu that at a later date, you can go back and install those curbs and sidewalks at that time, because you're getting the fee in lieu of right now.
We have the money.
You're
to
getting
do
the
it.
money to do it in the future, is what I'm basically saying.
For those properties.
Well, for the 2509, which was
Right.
granted previously,
we got it for the other
2519,
one
which is
already.
now, but you don't have the money for the existing lots that are further down. You're getting the money for the new construction lots at this point.
Okay, I have a couple other questions too for you real quick. I don't know what number it is, the first one, the third property in, it appears as if they're doing some additional construction, sidewalk, looks like some type of
Driveway widening or something like that.
patio out, yeah.
I got a
Is that
call.
part of the original
No.
plan? Okay, has that been permitted?
No. I got a call from the building inspector driving by there today when I was calling him about another issue on another job site at 3:30. Made a phone call after we met for our stuff to Mr. Snyder, in which I was informed that the homeowner was doing some work or something like that. I didn't.
So they're putting impervious space back there,
Right,
additional
so-
impervious space for a patio out back of one of those homes, and they don't have the appropriate permits from the
Right.
township.
So I did not go out there verbally. I did a drive-by up before the meeting tonight to see exactly what was going on. We will be going out tomorrow morning to issue a stop work order on the project, which we verbally gave that to Mr. Snyder to pass on to the property owner.
That's a problem. And then in addition, I believe on the corner property, the mailbox was located along Woodbine when the property address is Huonville Road. I'm assuming that mailbox has to be relocated.
I'm not sure if it's labeled right, but I'm not sure how the post office handles that. We really don't get involved with postal deliveries. But the address is 2529 Huonville Road.
Right. And from what I understood, I thought the mailbox had to be along the frontage of the property for the address.
I'm not aware of that code, so
We
I'm
have
not
throughout
going
the
to comment.
township that they're on the safer side.
The
for
side street, they
mail
may have
person
requested
to
that.
put the mail in.
Post office may have requested that.
I think usually the addresses are basically given where the house is fronting. The house does front Huonville Road, even though the driveway's on Woodbine.
The post office might have requested that for safer
It's
delivery.
possible.
I mean, it's possible.
So I guess the middle house would be at Bensalem Avenue address?
No, it's Unionville.
right? Yeah.
Just a little.
That's a good point.
It fronts
Okay,
a side
any other
yard.
questions for Mr. Quinton? All right, Quinn, thanks for the update. Yeah, we'll wait for public comment because we're going to have public comment. Okay, we'll have a public comment. Quentin will stay here, so we'll be able to follow up then. Let us get through these last agenda items. Okay, so there's a request for a waiver for curbs and sidewalks for 2519 Unionville Road in lieu of a payment of $3,740. Is there a motion?
Mr. Council President, don't I have a chance to speak on that?
No, it's not a speaking, you can speak at public comment, though.
No, I'm talking about the issue you're going to vote on.
I'm sorry. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a motion to turn down? Okay,
Well,
Mr. Pizzo, they don't,
I'm, go ahead, Mr. President.
go ahead, tell us what, you know. Go ahead, sorry.
If council chooses not to grant the waiver, then the developer will be required to install the curbs and sidewalks. I would again defer to the township engineer over the wisdom of requiring that action to happen in lieu of the stormwater issues that the township has been made aware of in that particular neighborhood. Installing curbs and sidewalks would increase the amount of impervious surface and would direct stormwater flows perhaps in directions the township doesn't want them to go. So you're not really punishing Mr. Snyder by making him put the curb and sidewalk in as opposed to writing the township a check. It's really what the township believes is in the best interest of the community in terms of whether you want him to install curbs and sidewalks now or whether you want to take the money and fee in lieu of him doing that to be used for installing curbs and sidewalks at some later time or at some different location.
Okay, why don't you come up now, because you're going to be affected by this, I guess, because you live next door. But so I want you to understand that if we put curbs and sidewalks, I'm fine with him making him put curbs and sidewalks, but I don't want extra water going to the lot that's already built and onto your property towards West Bensalem Avenue. So.
My name is Charles Combet, 2499 Unionville Road. Mr. Polari was basically talking about my property. My comment on what you just said here,
Right.
I don't have a problem with waiving sidewalks. I believe the curbs should be there to control the water that comes from down Unionville Road, whether you solve the golf course or not, comes down Unionville Road and runs in that middle property to flood the back.
Okay.
That's where most of the water problems are. There's nothing wrong with curbs being done.
I understand. That's a good
Stop
point.
rewarding somebody who don't work with us.
Well, we're not rewarding him
gentlemen.
because he's got to pay. He's got to pay. But Mr. Gantz, do you believe that a curb along there would be okay to stop water flow into that lot?
Well, if you look at the map that's attached to the memo,
If that would work, I would be
it's
fine with it.
it's
but I don't know
only,
if it
it's
would
only
work.
the middle of the three lots. That Unionville Road would have to be physically widened, and then the curb be put in probably 8 to 10 feet back from the edge of the road, and then the other two lots, the water would all gather there, because it can't, it would go anywhere.
Mr. Gantz, they've raised the other two properties even higher than already. We've lived there 60 years. We know where the water flows. It flowed in that middle lot towards the back that everybody's having such a
I know,
hard
but
problem
there's
with.
no-
And they raised the
Is
two
there- is
other
there-
ones even higher.
Is there a
How are
curb?
you
There's
gonna
no
do
curb
that?
on Unionville Road in front of the first house that's a Woodbine in Unionville?
Yes.
If a curb is put in on the middle lot, how will it affect the stormwater flow
The
to the surrounding area?
stormwater would go to where the new curb is, and then go around on both sides.
Right.
The lots on the right and the left.
And there's no
So
curbs in front of the
It would
lots on the right or
increase
the left?
flooding on the two adjacent properties.
Probably would, yes.
How was, what would be the engineering feat to put I guess that would be a culvert or whatever you would call it, drain type of a thing in that, since that's the lowest property, the lower property of the two anyway, of the three. Is that a feasible
Well,
solution?
you have to look at the overall storm sewer system in that area and establish if you could actually put an inlet in there, or if it would work there. I think because it's only one lot, you're actually causing other problems. You have to picture, this curb would be set back.
I'm not interested in putting the curb.
Okay.
I'm asking about an inlet. If that was put down, since that's the lowest property, and so the water would go in there and continue in the storm
That could be
sewer system.
investigated. The inlet has to go somewhere, be connected to something.
It would have to connect to the
Has to
piping
connect
system
to
that they're.
something.
Well, I understand that, so I'm
We can-
asking,
it
I'm
can be
asking, can
investigated.
that be connected to a system that we have there? We already have water coming down.
We have water, a system up further, it comes across Humeville.
Right.
It would have to go up to that and tie in there. It could be investigated.
And who would be responsible to pay for that? You know, who's gonna pay for it? Is the owner, Mr. Snyder, gonna pay for it? Is it gonna come down to the township for something that Mr. Snyder should have taken care of in the first place?
Well, it's a situation where it's not a land development. That's the problem, right there. It's
Okay, but
a house,
so you-
house by
permit.
house.
But you think putting a curb in the middle lot would cause more flooding issues,
I
not
think
less?
it would.
You think it would? So I don't think, the water would go around. I don't think it would help. I don't think it would help the situation.
If the properties were raised higher, you still think that there's going to be a water issue?
Well, Mr.
The
Gumbach,
elevation of those two properties, are they higher? I mean,
You said they are.
he said they're higher.
right.
They raised them much.
But if those two
they
are higher,
raised-
then how could you foresee a flooding issue?
Overall, the properties drain from Humeville Road into that wooded area, to that
Right.
fourth lot,
Yeah.
landlocked lot, is wherever the water is going to. So around the houses, they did raise those grounds up to keep the water around that foundation. For the corner lot, there was a swale that was, if you're on Woodbine Avenue, there was a swale installed to keep the water from the adjacent property, to keep the water on the natural runoff pattern to get to that wooded area. There's also a yard drain that was installed to collect the driveway.
Right.
On the lot next to Mr. Combat, there was a sheet drain or sheet flow pretty much straight down from Humboldt Road, except for around the house, because you have to get the water away from that foundation. But that was raised. And that's what I think a lot of people are considering. But like the grounds next door where there's a, we'll say a common property line, those are pretty much where the existing grade was. So to keep the water flow not from going onto anybody else, but going straight back.
Can
But-
that lot hold the water that's gonna be coming off, or is it because now you don't have the whole wooded area, you only have that one lot area, is that gonna be able to hold all the water that's flowing back to it and keep it from flowing on to the people's properties behind it?
Well, that's one of the things I was saying earlier, is the new house that's being constructed, they have they're meeting their storm requirements for the driveway, patios, the house, into their underground recharge pits. One of the things that we were looking at when we were out there last week was the existing line that's going from Woodbine Avenue out into the wooded area and making a 90 down toward High Avenue, was installing another drain just so that can collect that water that's sheet flowing coming down off those upper areas of those individual three lots.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Nero, but there's underwater basins, underground on those two properties, is that correct?
Yes.
So then the water ultimately is going to go to there anyway.
Well, all the roof
Retain
water,
it for a while until it flows out.
right, so it's all,
But
it's
it's
all
supposed to
underground
handle the
seepage.
water flow, regardless if there's a curb there or not, though, right?
Right, but the underground seepage is not to collect all the grass areas. It's only for the impervious coverage areas. So anything coming off of Humeville Road, so basically Humeville Road's got a crown what's supposed to keep the water on both sides of the street. So anything coming off of Humeville Road in that frontage should drain through that yard into their grass areas.
Understood. And so it's still supposed to collect the impervious, the water coming off the
It's
impervious space.
directly piped into
So
the pit.
if we do curbs and sidewalks there, then the idea is that water would then flow into there. My thinking is that, we have the money already collected for those two properties, turn this down and then do all three properties,
But
curbs
then,
and sidewalks.
one of the things I'm not sure if Mr. Gadsden mentioned, though, but then you'd have to go past Mr. Cumbat's house, because now that water that's going southbound, because that's the lowest area, any water hitting that curb has got to get directed someplace else. You're directing onto an existing house that doesn't have.
It's going to go into his house and the next house
So you have to
until West
extend
Bensalem
down that
Avenue.
way to the next street.
You'd have to
It's
do
going
the
to make
entire
it worse.
block.
To make that work so it doesn't flood anybody
You'd
else
have to do it
out.
from Woodbine all
I
the
don't
way
want to
West
I don't
Bensalem.
want to do favors for it, but he's paying in lieu of, but I don't want to make your situation worse by making him put curbs there.
If we
The whole
put,
situation started worse as soon as they started.
I know that, but still, I don't
You
want to
can't
try
use
anymore.
that.
I understand that, but,
Can I ask a question here?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's part of everything that I wanted to do, okay? You're talking about stormwater management and this and that. We talked once before, and you said there was going to be a swale between the new house and me.
Right,
There was never enough dirt there to make anything. He just made the ground higher around the house and went downhill. Didn't do anything else, didn't bring any other dirt into it. My other question that I started to ask before is that the side door on their garage was never part of the plans. There's sidewalk and step there that now, maybe you'll see tomorrow, is now from the street all the way around the house. So now you added more sidewalk that's literally 3 feet from my driveway. How can you do that after the fact?
well, we're going to,
Mr.
go
Nero,
over
that's
tomorrow and
what
see
we're
what
gonna
they
have
do.
tomorrow to get the
Mr. Nero, I mean, with
but
that
the door-
impervious.
The door created this, and it was not part of the original plans, and I was told it was allowed to be done after the fact.
no.
This is what created all
They
this.
would have had to file for permits and everything. No, we're not gonna finger point.
Yeah, but that man
Charlie,
told
we're
me
not
it was
gonna finger
allowed.
point. We're not gonna finger point.
Okay, I'll take that. But
Quentin's gonna,
Mr. Gantz
can I
told,
finish? Can I
okay,
finish? Quentin's gonna go out tomorrow and find out what's going on there. We're arguing about something that they may have to remove, because it wasn't approved part of the plans. They did something they're not allowed to do. Something's gonna have to be done to fix that situation. Mr. Neron's gonna go out and check it out tomorrow, report back to us for one, and we know what's going on and what has to be done to fix the problem. I mean, I don't know what Mr. Gans said or didn't say, and I really don't, it doesn't, right now, we gotta take care of the problem at hand. Mr. Neron is aware of it now, and he said he's going out there tomorrow to check it out, so can we allow him that opportunity to find out what's going on?
absolutely.
And get the problem fixed?
Can I make the point that I asked Mr. Gantz if they were allowed to put the door there? He told me they were allowed to do it.
Again, we're pointing fingers, and
No, I'm not pointing
No,
fingers.
you
I
asked
a
me
specific question.
about the air conditioner.
I asked the air conditioner,
Nothing
and I
about
asked
a
you
door,
about the door
Mr.
too.
Comeback, there's nothing about a door.
Well, there's a new door there.
Okay, well, this is what we didn't want to do.
Check that out tomorrow.
I let you speak about the curb, okay, so let's not,
Mr. Nero.
he's going to check it out
One
tomorrow.
final question. Well, once you find out what's going on tomorrow, I mean, it's going to create more additional impervious space. Would there be a situation where we would require additional water management to handle that? And if so, then could we then just incorporate that into the idea of forcing him to put the curbs and sidewalks in along those 3 properties?
I know, but he's saying that, then his property and the ones next to West Bensalem, there's 3 more properties that will get water pushed into their property.
I don't think it's going to be 3 properties, right? It'll be his property more so than anybody's.
No, he just told you that. He said,
I recognize that, but we already are aware of the situation that he's out there putting additional impervious space.
No, he's
That's
not
not-
allowed.
if you put curbs and
He's not
sidewalks
allowed.
in front
Right,
of,
but what's going to happen is it's going to create an additional water management problem at this point, right?
I know, but if you put curbs and sidewalks in front of the 3 new houses, the water will go to the existing houses between the new houses and West Bensalem Avenue, including his house and the next 2 houses.
That's what the two houses, right.
That's what they're saying.
I would prefer to wait to see what the result is from tomorrow's inspection.
Well, we can
Especially-
wait, that's another
yeah.
thing, but, you know.
But if Mr. Pizzo, if we don't approve this tonight, then he can, he'll put them in, correct? He has to put them in? Or can we continue this to a date certain? How do we keep this going so that we're not
We
gonna,
can find out.
yeah.
The developer will, I'm assume, be advised by someone in building and planning or by the engineer that the council tabled the request forward 2 weeks. He'll either wait 2 weeks for an answer, or he'll just move forward with installing the curb and
Which
sidewalk.
is what he'll do.
Yeah,
Exactly
because
right.
he did that with the lot.
Exactly right, Joe. May I ask a question?
yes.
Okay, and this is in question form because I don't know. But if you have 3 properties there, and the one property was 09, 19, and then 29, is that correct? So the middle property would be number 19? The address?
Oh, yes,
Addresses
so it's
you had
20
said.
2509,
All right, so the middle
2519.
property is what he's working on now, and that
Correct.
property is lower than the other 2 properties, based on what I heard this evening. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, so wouldn't the property then automatically go down, the new property's working on 19? And wouldn't that water go back to where the basin is being created back there? And wouldn't that kind of resolve the problem within itself?
Well, so Humeville Road is the highest point,
Okay?
and it's more of a flow going away from Humeville Road through the three properties together. But if you're looking at 2529, 2519, 2519 is probably higher than 2529 because of Woodbine Avenue. But if you look at a cross-section from Humeville Road into the properties, it's pretty much an even but a slightly sloped down toward 2509 as the lowest point.
So then the basin in the middle property, which is...
See, the landlocked piece.
Yeah, the landlocked piece, is that not where the basin is going, that we're consider putting in?
That's where the inlet would go in that we were
Inlet.
looking at, correct. And then what we were talking about doing in the field was to allow the water coming off of 2529 wraps around the existing houses that are adjacent to that. That's where the new line would be going into. There's already an existing inlet there that would probably be replaced, but add another inlet, say 25 feet away, closer to Woodbine Avenue, at a low point that we found we're walking in the area, and then do a little bit of grading behind that to collect all that runoff from going onto the existing properties further down. So collect that.
That would
Swales on
alleviate
that
flooding
property?
down Woodbine.
Flooding down on the houses in the back on Woodbine Avenue, all the way down toward like Forest Avenue. So we're
Right.
gonna control the water at that point, since there's nothing there stopping it now.
Would swales on the property, I'll say the middle property then, on each edge of the...
That would be directed into that same vicinity, basically.
Wouldn't that pretty much help resolve the problem or not?
Well, that's pretty much, from what I remember, I believe everything does go down that side, those side yards of that 2519 on these proposed plans.
But you said it's going to the back lot.
It's going to the back
How
lot.
much water can that back lot hold?
Well, that's what I'm saying, so there was going to be a drain installed to collect that water and put it into the system directly.
How long would it take and what can we do to get a plan on exactly what's going on instead of talking about this, that, and the other thing? If we-
A plan for the pipe work?
I mean, he's playing council and this township.
Yes.
You
We
know,
could we
by,
could use the plans we've received from Dumac Engineering for those houses and use that and plot our plans out on that. We don't have an actual survey plan with our elevations taken out there, just based on what we were submitted. We were using it as a sketch, we'll say.
right.
And just looking at the field areas, doing a couple spot elevations in the vicinity of the existing houses to see what was feasible.
Okay, so do you recommend that we allow the builder to put curbs and sidewalks in front of 2519 Humboldt Road?
I mean, if you're gonna require him to put them in at this point, we'll have to see how they're gonna address the drainage for that curbing, because that water's gotta go somewhere, and I don't know where it's gonna go, except for on the
That
2509.
could create more problems.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we continue this to our next meeting and give Quentin the time to look at the whole situation there and come back to us with what would be work and what wouldn't work. I think that that's the way to go instead of trying to guess what's going to happen. That would be my motion, is to continue it to our next meeting.
I agree, I'll second it.
Okay, so there's a first and a second to move this waiver request to September 23rd meeting.
And I think the whole purpose is we want to do what's best for the residents in that area, and we want to make sure that whatever we do,
Right.
Can we
We're
prevent the
not
builder
gonna
from putting in the
enable
curbs and
this
sidewalks
developer to
before the
continue
23rd,
to-
Joe? Joe?
He doesn't have permits yet to do the installation. He would have to get PennDOT approval anyway.
Oh, okay, all right, so it would be all
So
right.
he doesn't
Okay, I
have
just
to-
wanted-
You don't need to do an answer right now. if that's your
Okay.
And
question.
that house that's next door that's putting in all that extra stuff that's going to...
You're gonna check that out tomorrow.
Right.
Something needs to be done with that. And if
Right, and I'll be out there
you're not
tomorrow
capable
You'll
of
be out
doing
there.
it for it,
I'll be out there
I mean, that's
tomorrow.
gotta be done.
Okay, so we'll deal with this, we'll deal with the 2519 curbs and
Before this
sidewalks
is
on the
put on a
23rd.
motion for a table, I have a question to Mr. Pizzo. If he proceeds to put curbs and sidewalks in because this is tabled, we have the authority to tell him to rip them out, take them out?
I might be able to help with that. He needs permits from PennDOT.
Yes, you won't be.
So we haven't mentioned PennDOT yet, but nothing is done until PennDOT approves it. They may, right up front, say, no, we don't want 50 feet of curb along our road. It might be stopped right there. So I think PennDOT has to be involved in this relatively soon.
Okay, so he can't just put them in without.
No,
No.
no, absolutely
All right,
not.
So he's not going to put them in
Not,
before 22.
not in the intervening 2 weeks. He could
Right.
certainly start that process.
He has to start the process.
He could certainly abandon his request for a waiver and go that route.
Go right to PennDOT.
And then, I don't know that it's to his benefit to do that, but it is at least one of the options. We've seen, at least in the past, when, insofar as the lot line change request goes, when it was determined that it wasn't going to go through, he abandoned it and went a different route, so it's...
I would prefer that we would grant the waiver for the curbs and sidewalks. We have the money in lieu of, and we can put the curbs and sidewalks in, or the curbs if we need to do it, based on PennDOT's recommendation.
I have a motion on the floor that we give it 2 weeks and give Quentin time to look into this and make sure where we are. So
we have a second.
If we don't have a second, then it dies, and then you can go from there.
I second
A
it.
second,
All right, so we have a second.
Yep.
And you have to take the vote.
Okay, so you have to take the vote. Okay, so all in favor of moving this to the 23rd? We're taking a chance, he's going to put the curbs and
He
sidewalks.
can't, because we're delaying it.
Okay,
We're,
all right.
right, Joe? We're continuing it. He's still.
Well, he said he could.
Well, I mean, he can go in and do it anytime he wants anyway, because he's
You're,
there.
at this point, you're tabling the request for the waiver. So at this point, from his perspective, he has to install them. What step he's going to take in that regard is entirely up to him. He may wait 2 weeks, he may start the process. But as your engineers have told you, that is much more than a 2-week process.
Okay, so that's good. Okay, so we have a first and a second on moving this to the date certain of September 23rd. All in favor of moving this to the 23rd?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
I vote
against?
no. I vote no.
You vote no.
Yes.
Okay, so it's 4-1. Okay, so we'll deal with this on the 23rd. Okay? All right, thank you, Quentin. And we have one more at 2318 Ogden Avenue for a waiver of curbs and sidewalks. This is a big number here, but
It's a
6,000.
It's a corner property.
Oh, it's a corner property, so it's front and back. $6,293.74.
That is correct.
Okay, so is there any questions for Mr. Gantz in reference to this waive? This is a residential home again?
Yes.
Okay, and it's a corner, so it's two front yards, so that's why it's so high. A little up.
Yeah, Mr. Gantz, I'm pretty familiar with the area, but just confirm there's no curbs or sidewalks along Clover Nook, along Ogden. Again,
Pretty much that whole area has.
There's
Okay,
no curb
right,
and sidewalks
yeah,
and
that's
all
what I-
that.
No.
There's not.
yeah, no, I figured as much, but
Okay, so is there a motion to approve this?
I'll make a motion that we approve.
Okay, Mr. Sloan, second.
I'll second.
Ed, second. All right. Technician, second. Okay, all in favor?
Vote aye.
Aye. Any against? Okay. All right, we're good. Okay, public comment. Does anybody want to come up with public comment?
Hello, everyone. I'm Dennis McGuire, Ogden Avenue, Bensalem. Been up there 19 years. I'm just going to bring up something that I watched the tape the other night. And a young lady by the name of Eileen Keith touched on sidewalks. That there was a fatality on Humeville Road. That was my son.
Oh, okay.
And I would just like to see if something could get done in that area. I was on Humeville Road today, coming south from the Eddington house. One speed limit sign was 40. It's the only one I seen. Drove all the way to Bristol Pike. Also, when you get towards Cornwall Avenue there, the speed limit goes to 35. No sign. No signs at all.
No speed signs on them?
No. And that's when the speed limit goes lower. Because when you go north, it says speed limit's going to change. And when you go up there, you see the 40. You see, not plenty, but you see more on the northbound side than southbound. So something's got to be touched there. And also, if you notice when you go down Humeville Road, it narrows as you get there towards the Little League field. It keeps narrowing.
Yeah, that bridge was widened. It used to be.
And what it is, there's really no place to walk. Now, I don't know if it's from shrubbery. I don't know. I don't know, but That's where my son was killed, right at Kings Avenue there.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
So.
But we'll check it out with the police and see about the signage.
Any one of your lawyers, take time, just go up and down Hill Road, you'll see signs. Maybe pedestrian sign, maybe something, you gotta put something up, it's gonna happen again.
Yeah, can we get a
I
traffic
hope it
safety
don't.
officer out there to,
Well, I think this is the state property, so I'm not sure if that's handled
Yeah,
locally or
PennDOT.
not. So we'd have, Mr. Pizzo, if there's,
Work
it's a
in
state road,
conjunction
is
with
that something that would be PennDOT, or is that something that would go through our?
No, you're correct, Mr. Valeri. It would be state. Now, obviously, Ms. McBreen and Mr. Gans are both here to hear the comments. They can certainly pass along, at least at a minimum, the concerns over what appear to be a shortage, perhaps, of speed limit signs along that stretch of highway. And then insofar as, we're talking about curbs and sidewalks up at the other end of that stretch of road, at least between Street and Bristol Pike. So perhaps the engineers can get together with PennDOT and talk about what PennDOT might have in mind for sidewalks along the entirety of that stretch of Humenville Road.
Because it narrows there and there's no place to go.
It will be a massive undertaking, make no mistake.
Oh,
And
I know.
If started today, it would be years
We
away.
could get the
but-
process started and work together with Senator Tomlinson's office, because he's the one that worked with the bridge down there to widen that, and see what we can get PennDOT to do. The signs they should be able to do right away, but we'll need to have,
No, I know it's something won't happen overnight, I know that.
well, the signs can happen. Our road department could talk to PennDOT and
just
try to
putting
get that
signs out
squared
there.
away, so.
Sure, but, and understand, PennDOT, like everything else, and in times, and Russ, correct me, at times it's counterintuitive, but PennDOT has its own set of regulations as for, the number of signs, the distances between signs, where we as lay people think that what used to be called guardrails and now are called guide rails would be appropriate. PennDOT thinks the exact opposite. They would rather the car go off the road than be kept on the road. So what we as lay people think are things that should be done, PennDOT in their wisdom through their years of whatever it is that they do to come to these conclusions, conclude that, we might think a speed limit sign every X number of feet is appropriate. PennDOT may think otherwise.
Right.
So, but again, that doesn't stop us from taking the concern to PennDOT, and we'll do that. And, talking about sidewalks, I can remember a number of years now, a young person being killed along New Falls Road in Levittown. And there being an outcry at that point in time for, why aren't there sidewalks along that stretch of New Falls Road? And ultimately, Senator Tomlinson got funding for that to happen, and it's still being engineered all these years later. So it's a significant undertaking.
And I go up and down Hugo Road. I live on June Avenue in Eddington, so I go up
You
and down
know.
those roads all the time. And if you go the other way, where the rescue squad is, and
Right.
the sidewalks there, any time you can go up there, people are walking on the other side of the road on the street, not walking on the
Right.
sidewalks that you put there.
Right.
So these are things that we can talk to the senator's office, get the PennDOT, try to get the ball rolling. But the signs, I think, would be an issue that we should be able to talk to.
If
The
you
signs are
if you even get time yourself, write them down, you'll see.
Yes, and I agree with you. I tried it out.
Even the sign says pedestrian and in the walkway, whatever.
Yep.
You gotta bring, because people coming down there don't know that. And all of a sudden, that road's going just like this. And if you're driving, say 40, 50, because I don't have a speed limit sign, or 60, they can mow you right down.
I agree with you. It happens.
Because that's what happened to my
It happens
son.
Too much, so we'll get together with our people and get them to talk to PennDOT and the senator's office and see what we can do to get them to.
Yeah, because the only place of a sidewalk you need is right off of Bristol Pike, right after the 3 stores there, as you come up, because you can't see, it's dark there, there's all kind of shrubbery, you can't, my son laid there for 6 hours before they found him, because they couldn't see him in the shrubbery. So, I just don't want to see it happen to somebody else. I figure I bring it to your guys' attention, I figure I'm in the right place.
You are. and
thank you very
we'll
much.
get the ball rolling for you.
I appreciate it, man. I just don't want to I don't want to see anything on the news again.
Sorry for
All right, have a good night, guys.
Thank you.
Jerry Ryan, Woodbine Avenue, Bensalem. Geraldine Ryan, Woodbine Avenue. The mayor, Quentin, and this young gentleman did meet with us neighbors. They gave us some clue what's going on. We were very happy. We hope it works, but we're still very concerned when he clears the third lot with the water until their project is started. So there is progress being made, which we are very grateful. And number two, unfortunately, I was in the hospital 2 weeks ago Friday, and our stroke unit came in twice within 6 hours, and I'm very proud to say they saved 2 lives. So I'm proud that we have that here in Bensalem. Okay?
I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, and that the hospital brags about it over Frankfurt Tarsdale. And 5 minutes, they mean 5 minutes. They had them in the operating room. So it saved 2 lives 2 Fridays ago.
Yeah, I'm glad they were there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, let's close public comment. Other business, Ron, do you have anything?
I have nothing, sir.
Is that okay? Mr. Pizzo, do you have anything to add?
Nothing further, thank you.
Go Eagles. Good. Scary start,
I
but
gave
good.
up hope. I was disgusted in the first quarter.
You know, that second half was a different game.
Keep hope alive.
Did they win?
They did win.
They win.
Down 17 nothing. Mr. Clary, do you have anything to add?
Phillies are losing 7-1 to the Braves. Pretty much right them off. Hockey team, the Flyers start soon. I'm getting excited about that. Hopefully.
Hockey.
One thing, I just wanted to thank the residents. I assume Ms. Cashier is still here. In regards to the proclamation, I'm proud to be part of it this evening. So thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. I was able to make that proclamation. That's it.
Okay.
Thanks. Good evening.
Mr. Kisselback?
I do have a comment. I also congratulate you for bringing the proclamation to us on council. And I would like to say that, in 2 days, 18 years ago, September 11th, 2010, we had the Islamic terrorist group Al-Qaeda with Osama bin Laden kill innocent people in the United States with their terrorist acts. 2,927 people were killed, including New York City, Washington, D.C., and outside of Shanksville. And I think it's a time that we should never forget, and something we certainly should commemorate as far as the worst attack on the United States of America, and how we reacted to that was hopefully the way we can react to any adversity that comes before us in the United States, because that was a time to remember in a bad way, but a time to remember in a good way, as we all had come together as Americans. So I just wanted to bring that to our attention. 2 more days, we will commemorate that. That's it from me.
Okay, thank you for coming out tonight, and we're glad we were able to get that proclamation out today. And if anybody can make a financial contribution to help out with research for childhood cancer, is certainly a worthy cause. So, contact the mayor's office, and we'll set you up with whoever you need to get in contact to make that donation. Okay, with that, next meeting will be September 23rd. Thank you.
Take the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.